Chapter 3395. Lin Feng reckoned that the devil hand had already discovered him. After all, the devil hand was so powerful. It was normal for him to be discovered by the devil hand. It was just that the devil hand did not greet Lin Feng. Trespassing into the undead paradise will only lead to death. The densely packed skeletal creatures roared. Then, they all rushed towards the devil hand. The devil hand gently patted the void. Suddenly, an unimaginably powerful and terrifying power spread out in all directions. This power was so powerful that it shocked all the living beings in the world. Bang, bang, bang. Then, something terrifying happened. The bodies of the skeletons exploded one after another. Not long after, those skeletal creatures died one after another. Further away, the overwhelming number of skeletal creatures continued to rush over. However, facing the devil hand's attack, those skeletal creatures did not have the strength to resist at all. So what if they had thousands of troops in front of the devil hand? They were still unable to withstand a single blow. Lin Feng's face could not help but reveal a deeply shocked expression. It was simply too shocking. The devil hand's attack was simply like the end of the world. Lin Feng suddenly thought of the time when the devil hand had just been born. It had almost destroyed the Undying Clan's branch in the 9 states. Back then, the devil hand had also been separated by the 7 sages of the Undying Clan and suppressed in different places. Lin Feng did not know what kind of existence the devil hand's original body was, but there was one thing that Lin Feng was very clear about. The devil hand seemed to have an immortal body. If the devil hand's original body could be killed, then the 7 sages of the Undying Clan had such a powerful cultivation. Why couldn't they kill the devil hand's original body? This was enough to explain a lot of questions. Now that the devil hand had escaped for a period of time, his battle strength seemed to have become even stronger. Isn't the devil hand looking for his separated and suppressed body? Could it be that the immortal graveyard is suppressing the devil hand's body? Lin Feng could not help but think of a certain possibility. After thinking of this, he could not help but be shocked. If that was really the case, that was too shocking. Once the devil hand found another body, his combat strength would continue to increase. Previously, Devil Hand had said that once he recovered, he would kill his way to the Undying Clan's main branch to take revenge for what happened back then. The Demon Hand's resentment was great. If such a day really came, there would definitely be a shocking battle. Along the way, the Demon Hand was practically invincible. After destroying the skeleton army, it arrived at the mountain range deep within the Bone Sea realm. The skeletal creatures in the mountain range were even more powerful. Now, all of the skeletons were attacking the devil hand. The demonic hand trembled slightly. Bang, bang, bang. Countless skeletons exploded. Heaven-defying. Truly heaven-defying. I wonder how much strength Devil Hand has recovered. Lin Feng watched from afar, his heart filled with shock. Devil Hand's battle prowess had deeply shocked him. One had to know. The Devil Hand was only a palm now. There was still a long way to go before his body could be reassembled. Yet, even a single palm was so powerful. In the past, when he was at his peak, just how terrifyingly strong was he? Think about it. Everyone couldn't help but feel a sense of horror. The skeletons in the entire mountain range were all killed by the Devil Hand. The Devil Hand flew into the depths of the mountain range. Lin Feng also followed the Devil Hand into the depths of the mountain range. That is, suddenly, Lin Feng's pupils contracted violently. A huge tomb appeared in the depths of the mountain range. The tomb was surrounded by immortal light. The void around the tomb was distorted. It was actually an immortal tomb. Although they were very far away, Lin Feng felt like he was about to suffocate. It was hard to imagine how powerful the existence buried in the tomb was when it was alive. It was unknown how many tens of thousands of years after its death it was actually able to emit such a terrifying aura. Immortal herbs, Lin Feng was shocked. He saw a few immortal herbs in the immortal tomb. Those immortal herbs were extraordinary. They had been growing for more than 1,000,000 years. Otherwise, they wouldn't have transformed into immortal herbs. I haven't even entered the immortal tomb, and I've already seen a few immortal herbs. As expected of the immortal burial ground. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. There were many immortal burial grounds in the world. Every immortal burial ground might be extremely dangerous. However, danger and opportunity often coexist. Just like this immortal burial ground, because of the existence of the skeleton's army, this place was simply a land of death. But an expert of the devil hand's level came and destroyed the skeleton's army. This place suddenly became a treasure land. Rumble! The devil hand directly slapped toward the immortal tomb, wanting to destroy it directly. The devil hand's attack caused a loud noise. It was like an ancient immortal mountain violently crushing the sky. The power of that terrifying attack was so strong that it was shocking. Just at this moment, kacha kacha sounds were heard. The immortal tomb actually cracked open. After the immortal tomb cracked open, an ancient bronze coffin flew out from it. The ancient bronze coffin collided with the devil hand. Bang! Along with the sound of the violent collision, there was a loud bang. Even the void began to collapse. A collision of this level was simply too shocking. Everyone couldn't help but feel a sense of horror. Get out! The devil hand roared in anger. You're not dead yet. A voice came from the ancient bronze coffin. This voice was actually a woman's voice. This made Lin Feng extremely shocked. Kacha kacha! The ancient bronze coffin opened, and a woman appeared. She was a woman wearing a purple dress. She had a celestial aura and was incomparably beautiful. At this moment, she coldly looked at the devil hand. What a good method. You actually hid in the ancient bronze coffin and avoided calamity after calamity to live until now. The devil hand said coldly. Lin Feng was shocked. Who was this woman in purple? From the looks of it, she seemed to be in existence of the same era as the devil hand. And it was very likely that they had a grudge. You shouldn't have come looking for me, because you found the wrong person. If you leave now, I can spare you. Otherwise, I don't mind suppressing you. The woman in purple said coldly, Ha ha ha, what a joke. You want to suppress me? Tell me, where is my body? The devil hand roared and charged toward the woman in purple. She knows where the devil hand's main body is being suppressed. Just who was this purple-dressed woman? Is she from the Undying clan? Lin Feng couldn't help but think. You're destined to be a thing of the past. Why fight against fate? The woman in purple said coldly. She controlled the bronze coffin. Chapter 3396. The bronze sarcophagus was extraordinary. It was a powerful offensive magic treasure, and it was controlled by the purple-dressed woman. It was very powerful. Extreme demon palm. The demon hand shouted. As the shout fell, the demon hand began to grow bigger. In the blink of an eye, it became the size of dozens of acres. It covered the sky, trying to grab the ancient bronze sarcophagus. But the ancient bronze sarcophagus was too powerful. Bang, bang, bang. The ancient bronze sarcophagus and the demon hand collided. Violent collisions occurred again and again. The sound was deafening. It was extremely powerful. After many collisions, the demon hand sent the ancient bronze sarcophagus flying. Then, the demon hand quickly flew toward the purple-dressed woman. It directly descended from the sky and suppressed the purple-dressed woman. The purple-dressed woman's cultivation was extremely powerful. She collided with the demon hand. She was not at a disadvantage. The demon hand's attack became more and more violent. The purple-dressed woman controlled the ancient bronze sarcophagus to fight the demon hand. They fought until the sky fell and the earth cracked. The sun and moon lost their light. The entire huge planet couldn't help but make cracking sounds. The entire planet, it began to crack. This is too terrifying. Lin Feng's face revealed an extremely shocked expression. A battle of this level was simply unimaginable. It was just the energy aftermath of the shock, but it was actually going to destroy a planet. It was easy to imagine just how tyrannical these two existences were. It was truly shocking. Rumble, rumble, rumble. This was accompanied by a series of loud noises. The void began to collapse. At the same time, the earth also began to collapse. The situation was extremely bad. This planet seemed to be beginning to dismember. The battle between the demon hand and the purple-dressed woman was so powerful that it made people pale with fright. Lin Feng quickly retreated, not daring to get close to the center of the battle. In the end, this planet was really dismembered into 4 parts. The dismembered planet could no longer maintain celestial motion. Therefore, it began to fall to an unknown location in the starry sky world. The battle between the demon hand and the purple-dressed woman became more and more intense. However, their battle moved from this planet to the starry sky world. Lin Feng wasn't in the mood to watch the battle between the devil hand and the purple-dressed woman. His thoughts were all on the immortal tomb. After the purple-dressed woman came out of the immortal tomb, the suffocating pressure from the immortal tomb finally lessened a lot. Lin Feng quickly flew towards the immortal tomb. He collected the few stalks of immortal herbs. The value of these immortal herbs was immeasurable. Even if there were no other opportunities, being able to obtain these immortal herbs was already a great opportunity. After collecting these immortal herbs, Lin Feng quickly entered the immortal tomb. There's actually a skeleton here. Lin Feng saw a skeleton. The skeleton was very strange. It was actually made of jade. He had been dead for far too long. Even the jade-like bones had already decayed. Is this the skeleton of an immortal? However, it has already decayed. Does this mean that this tomb wasn't built by that purple-dressed woman? Lin Feng could not help but ponder. He had originally thought that this immortal tomb was built by that purple-dressed woman. That purple-dressed woman had hidden in the immortal tomb and avoided the passage of time. She had lived until now, but now it seemed that wasn't the case. The immortal tomb itself existed. However, the purple-dressed woman had taken over the immortal tomb. Lin Feng quickly walked towards the skeleton. If it was really the skeleton of an immortal, it would definitely have an origin immortal bone. The value of an origin immortal bone was unimaginable, but at that moment, the skeleton actually emitted an aura that could destroy heaven and earth. That terrifying chi immediately moved towards Lin Feng to oppress him. Even though it was a skeleton that was close to decaying, it was still able to emit that suffocating pressure. If this skeleton wasn't the skeleton of an immortal, Lin Feng would definitely not believe it. Perhaps only the skeleton of an immortal could have such terrifying power. Lin Feng hurriedly activated his haki. Once his haki was activated, it immediately blocked the terrifying aura emitted by the skeleton. Lin Feng came in front of the skeleton. When he reached out and touched the skeleton, something shocking happened. The skeleton directly turned into ashes. Nothing was left behind. Seeing this scene, Lin Feng could not help but roll his eyes, helplessly. Lin Feng got up and continued to look for other things. The immortal tomb was so big. Lin Feng felt that there must be something good. Suddenly Lin Feng's eyes narrowed. He saw a mysterious item. He quickly rushed over and found that it was a bronze book. The coffin here was originally made of bronze. Now that a bronze book has appeared, could that be a living being from the Bronze Age? Lin Feng could not help but think of a certain possibility. The Bronze Age was an extremely important era. The leap from the Stone Age to the Bronze Age was an important transformation of the myriad worlds. The experts of the Bronze Age, even in the perspective of the 3,000 eras, stood at the peak of the experts. Their combat strength was unparalleled. Experts of that level were absolutely terrifying to the extent that it would make one's expression change. Immortals in that era, although there were not many, but there were still many. Unlike now, when one was searching for immortals in the myriad worlds. Where were the immortals? Lin Feng held the bronze book in his hand. Just as he was about to open it to take a look, suddenly he felt an eerie and terrifying aura enveloping his body. When Lin Feng felt that aura, his expression changed slightly. Lin Feng turned his head and saw that in the darkness, a terrifying living being was walking out step by step. God? No, it's not a God. Lin Feng's expression became extremely serious. He originally thought that the living being that walked out of the darkness was a god. But soon, Lin Feng realized that it was not a god. Although it was somewhat similar to a god's aura, it was definitely not a god. Not bad. Not bad. Your bloodline is very powerful. The terrifying living being said aloud. A pair of eerie and terrifying eyes stared at Lin Feng. It was as if he was looking at an exquisite piece of art. It was a blatant greed. Lin Feng was not unfamiliar with this gaze. In the past, when the divine servant wanted to take over his body, he had shown such a gaze. Now that this terrifying living being had shown such a terrifying gaze, Lin Feng guessed his purpose. Swoosh! Lin Feng took out the mysterious metal box. He planned to use the mysterious metal box to deal with this terrifying living being. This metal box fell into your hands. Are the dismembered corpse still inside? Chapter 3397. Lin Feng was shocked. This terrifying creature actually knew about the mysterious iron box, and it even knew about the broken corpse inside the box. You know about the mysterious metal box, too? Lin Feng asked. Of course. Of course. Back then, countless people fought over the mysterious metal box, but it disappeared in the end. No one was able to obtain it. I'm really curious. How did an ant like you obtain it? The terrifying existence couldn't help but say. Clearly, he didn't think much of Lin Feng. Earlier, he had used the term ant to address Lin Feng. It was no wonder that this terrifying being didn't think much of Lin Feng. He was indeed too powerful. No one would necessarily be able to win against such a terrifying existence. However, Lin Feng was more curious. Had this being been in the tomb all this time? Did he share the tomb with the purple-dressed woman? Did these two terrifying existences not fight? Although Lin Feng was puzzled, he still decided to ask about the corpse's origin. If there was a chance, he would ask about this terrifying being's origin. Do you know the origin of the dismembered corpse inside the mysterious metal box? Lin Feng asked. Of course. The terrifying being said. What is the corpse's origin? Lin Feng continued asking. The corpse's origin is. The terrifying being said. However, before he could finish his sentence, he remained silent. An ant like you doesn't have the right to know about the corpse's origin. I can't be bothered to say anything else to you. Now you can die. The terrifying being said coldly. Then he attacked Lin Feng. Boom! An extremely terrifying aura was emitted from his body. The aura was suffocating. This terrifying being's combat strength was heaven-defying. Now that he had unleashed a portion of his combat strength, Lin Feng felt like he had fallen into hell. "Open!" Lin Feng roared as he opened the mysterious iron box. Lin Feng wanted to use the mysterious iron box to deal with this terrifying existence. This move of his had been tested time and time again, but this time, after Lin Feng opened the mysterious iron box, the dismembered corpse did not move at all. The dismembered corpse seemed to have fallen silent. Originally, the dismembered corpse contained an extremely terrifying power. But now, however, that power was not released. "What's going on?" Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed. He didn't know what had gone wrong. In the past, every time the mysterious iron box was opened, the dismembered corpse would erupt with terrifying power. Why did it lose its effect this time? This puzzled Lin Feng. He didn't know what had caused all this. "It's useless. The dismembered corpse won't attack me," the terrifying being said. Then, a palm shot towards Lin Feng. Bang! Lin Feng received a blow from this terrifying existence and was directly sent flying. This terrifying existence seemed to be deliberately restraining its power. Therefore, it didn't hurt Lin Feng's body. It simply sent him flying. "Why won't it attack you?" Lin Feng asked. He felt that it was too strange. The dismembered corpse could almost cause indiscriminate attacks, but it didn't attack this living being in front of him. This was enough to explain the problem. "This is because I used my life essence blood to sacrifice the dismembered corpse in the past," the terrifying being said. Lin Feng didn't expect such a thing to happen. No wonder the dismembered corpse didn't attack this person. Perhaps it was related to the sacrifice that year. Boom! A terrifying pressure quickly surged out from the body of this terrifying being. That pressure directly suppressed Lin Feng's body, making it difficult for Lin Feng to move. Lin Feng couldn't help but roar. He wanted to struggle, but he struggled several times. He still failed. This terrifying being completely suppressed Lin Feng. It made it impossible for him to struggle. He came to Lin Feng's side and said sinisterly, "What a perfect body! The immortal divine body and the sovereign imperial body. What a powerful bloodline! If I can get your body, I will be reborn." At this moment, Lin Feng finally saw the body of this being clearly. His body was shining with a metallic luster. A puppet. Lin Feng's expression was very ugly. "That's right. This body of mine is a puppet. I have been waiting for an opportunity, a chance to be reborn. Now, I have finally waited for it," the terrifying existence said in a sinister voice. Lin Feng said with a gloomy expression, "You are that dead immortal." This terrifying being said coldly, "You are very smart to be able to guess my identity." Lin Feng had already guessed the whole story. He said, "Back then, that purple-dressed woman stole the ancient bronze coffin that buried you. Your remnant soul hid in this puppet and has been struggling at death's door until now. When that purple-dressed woman was here, you didn't dare to show yourself. It was only when she left that you dared to show yourself. My guess should be correct, right?" "Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Back then, she was the one who helped me forge this puppet body," this terrifying being said. When he mentioned the purple-dressed woman, his expression couldn't help but change. Lin Feng realized there seemed to be a trace of warmth in that pair of cold eyes. This made him extremely puzzled. This terrifying being in front of him. What was the relationship between that purple-dressed woman and him? Obviously, their relationship must be extraordinary. "Brat, I've already told you enough today. Everything can end now." This terrifying being stretched out his right hand. He directly grabbed Lin Feng's forehead. Soul transfer technique. Then this terrifying being let out a low roar. He used an extremely terrifying technique to take over Lin Feng's body. The situation was extremely dangerous. Lin Feng's two bloodlines actively operated. The undying bloodline, an extremely terrifying power shook out from the sovereign bloodline. Two terrifying powers. They rushed towards this terrifying being. Humph! The undying bloodline and the sovereign bloodline are indeed very powerful. Unfortunately, your cultivation is too low. You can't use the wonders of these two bloodlines at all. Therefore, even if these two bloodlines actively protect you, it won't be of any use at all. This terrifying being said coldly. Next, this terrifying being swept a fist towards the undying bloodline and the sovereign bloodline. The terrifying power that surged out from the undying bloodline and the sovereign bloodline instantly broke the powerful power that surged out from the undying bloodline and the sovereign bloodline. The situation was in imminent danger. It was simply despairing. But at this moment, something amazing happened. Buzz. In Lin Feng's body, a third power surged out. This power was incomparably mysterious. It seemed to be the power of bloodline, but also seemed to not be the power of bloodline. Chapter 33:98. This is when it sensed the third type of energy in Lin Feng's body. The terrifying creature revealed a look of disbelief. The owner of this type of energy, you are, the terrifying creature screamed in horror. It did not dare to say the rest of the words. The reason for that was because this living being knew that he absolutely could not say those words. That would be taboo words. If it was really said, it would be beyond redemption. Swoosh! The creature turned around and tried to escape. However, it was too late. The third type of energy that surged out of Lin Feng's body instantly entered the mind of the terrifying creature. Ah, why is this happening? The terrifying existence let out a miserable cry of unwillingness. Then his body fell headfirst onto the ground. It was motionless. There was no aura. The third type of energy that surged out of Lin Feng's body disappeared silently. That type of energy, it was as if it had never appeared. What is going on? Lin Feng's face was filled with confusion. Just now, he vaguely felt a terrifying energy surging out of his body. It was this terrifying power that had scared off this terrifying creature, and then killed it. However, regarding that energy, Lin Feng was unfamiliar with it. Where did that energy come from? Lin Feng could not help but be puzzled. He had a few powerful treasures. Could it be those powerful magic treasures? For example, ancient weapons, ancient devil rings, or devil beads. Lin Feng could not figure it out, but he did not think too much about it. Following that, Lin Feng walked over to the terrifying creature and inspected it carefully. He realized that the terrifying creature had been completely killed. Not even a trace of its soul was left. Damn it! How dare you try to take over my body? You deserve to die. Looking at the death of the terrifying creature, Lin Feng could not help but laugh coldly. Lin Feng held the bronze book in his hand and opened it. He sucked in a breath of cold air after reading the content. The name of the bronze book was the 3,000 Grimoire. Lin Feng had obtained the second half of the grimoire. As for where the first half of the grimoire went, Lin Feng did not know. The 3,000 grimoires actually recorded the 3,000 great daos. The second half of the grimoire recorded 1,500 types of 3,000 great daos. When he saw the introduction above, Lin Feng almost cried out in surprise. One had to know that Lin Feng had only cultivated 1,100 types of 3,000 great daos. The second half of the 3,000 grimoire actually recorded a total of 1,500 types of 3,000 great daos. It was truly inconceivable. Lin Feng's face was full of surprise. He carefully flipped through the 3,000 grimoires. It turned out that the 3,000 great Daos recorded in the second half of the 3,000 great Daos started from the 1,500 in first place. The 1,500 and first great Dao was called the Great Clairvoyance Technique. It was said that after successfully cultivating it, one would gain the ability to see through things. Lin Feng could not help but roll his eyes. There was actually such a 3,000 great Dao. It was really too evil. If he cultivated the Great Clairvoyance Technique, wouldn't he be able to see all the beauties in the world? Lin Feng compared the 3,000 great Daos that he cultivated with the 1,500 types of 3,000 great Daos recorded in the second half of the 3,000 great Daos. Lin Feng discovered that the 3,000 great Daos that he cultivated had a total of 300 types of 3,000 great Daos that overlapped with the 3,000 great Daos recorded in the second half of the 3,000 great Daos. Then, in other words, of the 1,500 types of 3,000 great Daos recorded in the second half of the 3,000 great Daos, only 1,200 types of 3,000 great Daos were useful to Lin Feng. However, this already made Lin Feng extremely excited. The 3,000 great Daos that he cultivated now, in addition to the 1,200 types of 3,000 great Daos that he obtained now, made a total of 2,300 types of 3,000 great Daos. Although there was still a certain gap compared to the Red World Fairy's 3,000 great Daos. However, the gap between them had been greatly narrowed. If I were to successfully cultivate all of these 1,200 types of 3,000 great Daos, to what extent would my cultivation base reach? Lin Feng couldn't help but think. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel excited. It's a pity that the first half of the 3,000 great Daos can't be found. If only I could find it. Lin Feng couldn't help but say. Then he looked at the corpse of the terrifying expert. Lin Feng couldn't help but ponder. What kind of existence was this guy at back then? He actually obtained so many 3,000 great Daos. Lin Feng even suspected that the 3,000 great Daos weren't created by this existence. The 3,000 great Daos might have been created by some unknown super expert. However, in the end, it was obtained by this terrifying existence. Countless years later, the 3,000 great Daos fell into his hands. Whether or not this was the reason, it didn't seem to be important anymore. Because Lin Feng had already obtained what he wanted the most, to be able to obtain the 3,000 great Daos this time. This opportunity was really too heaven-defying. This made Lin Feng extremely excited. The things left behind by immortals were indeed different. It was a pity. The immortal tomb was too rare. And even if the immortal tomb appeared, it wasn't something that ordinary people could explore. For example, this immortal tomb, if not for the appearance of the demonic hand and the attack on the immortal tomb, perhaps Lin Feng wouldn't have been able to obtain the 3,000 great Daos. Lin Feng kept the 3,000 great Daos. Then he flew outside. Just as he flew out, suddenly an emperor's sword tore through the void and slashed towards Lin Feng. This attack was too sudden. Lin Feng didn't even have time to resist. Seeing that Lin Feng was about to be killed by the emperor's sword, just at this moment, Lin Feng used the heaven patching technique. He borrowed another chance from the heavens. Whoosh! There was a flash of light. Lin Feng instantly disappeared without a trace. When Lin Feng reappeared, he was shocked. He had already appeared a few hundred meters away. The void split open. An old man stepped out. That emperor's sword flew back into the old man's hand. Little bastard, consider yourself lucky that you managed to dodge the attack just now. The old man's expression was gloomy. Who are you? Lin Feng looked at the old man with a gloomy expression. In his eyes, a dense killing intent flashed. Wu family's Wu Moya. The old man said coldly, "So it's the Wu family's patriarch. I didn't expect you to personally make a move." Lin Feng looked at Wu Moya indifferently. The Wu family's three great experts, Wu Yunfan, who was in the God Emperor realm, was crippled by Lin Feng in one move. Other than that, there was the Wu family's ancestor, Wu Qingfeng, who had gone missing during a space voyage hundreds of years ago. Then there was the Wu family's patriarch, Wu Moya. Previously, Lin Feng heard that this person was in closed-door cultivation. Now, this person had come out, and Lin Feng felt that this Wu Moya's cultivation was extremely high. It wasn't the immortal emperor realm that was widely rumored in the outside world. Chapter 3399. Seeing Lin Feng's calm look, Wu Moya's face turned extremely ugly. Facing a powerful expert like him, Lin Feng didn't seem to care at all. What did this mean? Was he looking down on Wu Moya? Thinking of this, Wu Moya's killing intent towards Lin Feng became even stronger. "Have you thought about how you're going to die?" Wu Moya looked coldly at Lin Feng and said. Lin Feng said indifferently, "A mere first heaven of the Imperial Emperor realm dares to find trouble with me. I think you're tired of living. Brat, you're really arrogant. When you're suppressed by me later, let's see if you're still as stubborn as you are now." As soon as he finished speaking, Wu Moya rushed towards Lin Feng. The magic treasure in his hand was an emperor-level treasure sword. It was extremely powerful. "Sacred sword, immortal slaying art." Wu Moya shouted coldly. Then, a sword slashed towards Lin Feng. Endless holy light condensed and formed. The holy light was dazzling. It was incomparably gorgeous. Amidst the boundless sacred light, the emperor's sword slashed out a terrifying sword gleam. Whoosh! The sword light quickly slashed towards Lin Feng. It instantly tore through the void. It came to Lin Feng's side. The dazzling sword light directly slashed down. It was as if it wanted to split Lin Feng in half. Humph! Lin Feng couldn't help but snort coldly. He flicked his finger. A clang was heard. Lin Feng collided with the sword chi that was slashing towards him. In an instant, the terrifying sword chi that was slashing towards him, it was instantly destroyed by Lin Feng. Seeing this scene, Wu Moya's expression changed drastically. Although he knew that Lin Feng's cultivation was extremely tyrannical, Wu Moya never thought that Lin Feng would be so powerful. It was really unbelievable. He was so young. It was actually able to withstand the attack of an imperial monarch. Furthermore, it was still quite easy to break his attack. This kind of shock was simply unimaginable. An imperial emperor's cultivation base is already considered pretty good, but compared to me, there's still a huge gap. Lin Feng said indifferently. His figure flashed, instantly arriving in front of Wu Moya. Then he threw a punch at Wu Moya. Lin Feng's punch was the ancestral dragon fist. It was the supreme divine ability passed down by the third ancestral dragon. In fact, only the Dragon Clan could unleash the full power of this mystic ability. Of course, Lin Feng was not a dragon. However, the ancestral dragon fist itself was too terrifying. Therefore, Lin Feng used this divine ability. The ancestral dragon fist also displayed enough power. After Wu Moya felt the terrifying power of Lin Feng's punch, he didn't dare to hesitate. He hurriedly stabbed his sword towards Lin Feng. Buzz! That terrifying sword instantly locked onto Lin Feng. Clang! Lin Feng's fist collided with Wu Moya's emperor sword. Lin Feng's fist was surrounded by the ancestral dragon aura. This ancestral dragon aura was extremely powerful. It directly broke Wu Moya's sword chi. that tyrannical fist force directly landed on Wu Moya's body. Wu Moya felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His body flew backwards. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood in midair. Lin Feng had absorbed a great imperial emperor, level-devouring godly demons' imperial law. 10 divine emperor, level food, god demon emperor laws. Wu Moya, a cultivator who had just entered the imperial emperor realm, was naturally no match for Lin Feng. Unless it was those high-level imperial emperor realm experts. Only then would they be able to defeat Lin Feng. After Lin Feng repelled Wu Moya, he quickly flew towards Wu Moya. Then he directly pressed down on Wu Moya with his large hand. Monstrous magic power condensed and formed. It was as if it could destroy the world. Its power was so strong that it moved people. Wu Moya wanted to resist, but it was difficult for him to resist Lin Feng's suppression. His body was almost unable to move. Cultivating to the Imperial Emperor realm is already an overlord of the universe. It's such a pity to kill you, on account of the goodness of the heavens. If you swear to acknowledge me as your master, I can spare your life. Lin Feng looked down at Wu Moya. The current Lin Feng was like an immortal ancient immortal. Every move, it gave people an unimaginable sense of oppression. Don't even think about it. I'd rather die. I won't become your slave either. Wu Moya gritted his teeth and said, in the world of cultivators, there was naturally no lack of people who were afraid of death. But there were also many cultivators who were very unyielding. They would rather die than be manipulated by others. Wu Moya was obviously such a person. Lin Feng sneered and said, even if you want to die, I won't let you die. In this star field, there are currently no forces that belong to me. I see that your cultivation is not bad, so I'll convert you into my slave. Then I'll accumulate strength and recruit experts. Maybe one day I'll be able to use you. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng directly used the incomparably tyrannical Great Purification Art. This 3,000 Great Tao directly converted the craftsman into a slave. Once he was converted, he would definitely be loyal and devoted. He would definitely not be disloyal, even if Lin Feng wanted him to die. When the time came, he would commit suicide without hesitation. This was the terror of the Great Purification Art, the power of purification condensed and poured into Wu Moya's head. No, I don't want to be purified. I don't want to become a slave. Brat, die with me. Wu Moya couldn't help but roar. Following that, his body began to swell. Wu Moya actually wanted to self-destruct. The self-destruction of an Emperor Realm expert was naturally no small matter. However, Lin Feng didn't give Wu Moya the chance to self-destruct. Seeing that Wu Moya wanted to self-destruct, Lin Feng flicked his finger. One rune after another wrapped around Wu Moya's body. Immediately, Wu Moya's mana was sealed. Wu Moya couldn't self-destruct even if he wanted to. At this moment, a large amount of the power of purification had already poured into Wu Moya's soul. This was the first time Lin Feng had purified an Emperor Realm expert. And the first thing he did was to purify an Emperor Realm expert. However, Lin Feng wasn't nervous at all. Purifying an Emperor Realm expert was exactly the same as purifying an ordinary cultivator. The only difference was that purifying an Emperor Realm cultivator was much more difficult than purifying an ordinary cultivator. An hour later, Wu Moya finally couldn't resist Lin Feng's purification. His ferocious eyes gradually calmed down. Soon, 15 minutes passed. Wu Moya's body had an additional aura of bemoaning the state of the universe and pitying the fate of mankind. Amitabha, good. Thank you, Lin Gongzi, for helping me cross the sea of bitterness. Wu Moya pressed his palms together in an incomparably pious manner. Ha 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 ha, fellow Taoist Wu is too polite. I am very gratified to see fellow Taoist Wu return from the wrong path. Chapter 3400. After edifying an emperor-level expert, Lin Feng was in a very good mood. After instructing Wu Moya on some things that he needed to do over the years, he let Wu Moya return to the Fire Snake Star. Lin Feng also left this place. He planned to go into seclusion again, to refine the 3,000 great Tao that he had just obtained. Just like before, Lin Feng found a lonely planet and entered the center of the planet. He began his seclusion. This time, Lin Feng would probably spend even more time in seclusion. After all, comprehending the 3,000 great Tao, it would take time. Time passed day by day. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, 18 years, 20 years. This time, Lin Feng spent 20 years comprehending 1,200 types of 3,000 great Tao. When he came out of seclusion, the light of calamity between Lin Feng's brows could no longer be suppressed. However, Lin Feng relied on the power of the Emperor Law to suppress the light of calamity between his brows. Lin Feng couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. After refining the Emperor Law, his talent had also increased greatly. Therefore, Lin Feng could refine more 3,000 great Tao. If he hadn't refined the Emperor Law, Lin Feng felt that refining 1,500 to 600 types of 3,000 great Tao might have been his body's limit. At that time, even if he didn't want to break through to the Emperor realm, he had to break through to the Emperor realm, because once his body reached its limit, the light of calamity could no longer be suppressed. Once the light of calamity could no longer be suppressed, it would attract the lightning tribulation above the 9 heavens. Therefore, at that time, Lin Feng had no choice but to transcend the tribulation and become an emperor. However, after refining the Emperor Law, his body's condition had been improved by the Emperor Law. His talent had increased greatly. Lin Feng could also refine more 3,000 great Tao. For Lin Feng, this was naturally a good thing. Although Lin Feng was still at the peak of the quasi-emperor realm. However, Lin Feng knew his battle prowess had increased by many times. After Lin Feng came out of seclusion, he continued to follow the ancient path and flew towards the undying realm. Along the way, he encountered many cultivators. After asking around carefully, he found out not long ago more than a dozen Emperor Sect level experts besieged a God-eater demon expert, although that God-eating demon expert was only at the peak Emperor realm. But his combat strength was extremely heaven-defying. Under the siege of more than a dozen Emperor Sect experts, he didn't die. He was only injured and managed to escape. Currently, many cultivators were searching for the whereabouts of the culinary god. If he could find the whereabouts of the culinary god, he would be able to report this news to the major factions. At that time, the various great emperor demon expert a demon expert. Thus, many cultivators in the star world were searching for the whereabouts of the culinary god demon. However, it was not an easy task to find him. God demons to God. Moreover, culinary god demons were very good at disguising themselves. Even if an ordinary person saw a God-eating demon expert, they might not be able to recognize him. God-eating demons were similar to the heavenly demons. They were proficient in disguise and confusion. If a peak emperor realm God-eating demon expert is injured, his combat strength will definitely decrease greatly. If I can find this God-eating demon expert, I might be able to kill him. Lin Feng couldn't help but think. Lin Feng had obtained a lot of benefits from refining a few 10 sounds fruits. Therefore, Lin Feng was very eager to find the God-eating demon expert and kill him. When the time came, Lin Feng would be able to obtain the God-eating fruit that the God-eating demon had turned into. Every time Lin Feng refined a God-eating fruit, he would be able to obtain an Emperor Law of the God-eating demon. How many Emperor Laws would a peak Imperial Emperor-level culinary God fruit have? Thinking about it, Lin Feng felt extremely excited. Lin Feng also began to search for the whereabouts of the God-eating demon in this star field. Many cultivators quickly flew towards the various planets in the star field. Then, they searched for the God-eating demon's whereabouts. Lin Feng also searched a few planets, but he didn't find any clues. He asked the other cultivators if they had found the gluttonous god demon's whereabouts. However, no one could find the gluttonous god demon. The injured god-eating demon seemed to have evaporated into thin air. Lin Feng used the innate 8 trigrams to deduce the whereabouts of the god-eating demon. It was very difficult to deduce the whereabouts of the god-eating demon. This was because the god-eating demon was very powerful and knew how to hide his presence. He also knew how to hide from the heavenly secrets. Therefore, Lin Feng's several divinations ended in failure. Until a certain day a month later, Lin Feng actually managed to deduce the whereabouts of the god-eating demon. He quickly flew in the direction he deduced. In the end, Lin Feng saw a planet shrouded in endless death energy. Quite a few cultivators had found this place. When the cultivators looked at this planet, they also felt that this planet was extremely extraordinary. It was a good place to hide. And so, many cultivators entered this planet to find the whereabouts of the god-eating demon. It should be here, looking at this planet shrouded in death energy, Lin Feng couldn't help but say. He quickly flew towards this planet. Soon, Lin Feng landed on the planet. This planet was shrouded in death energy. Wandering spirits and ghosts could be seen everywhere. The cultivators who landed on the planet scattered to look for the god-eating demon. Lin Feng also began to look for the god-eating demon on this planet, but after searching for a long time, he still didn't find any clues. And Lin Feng also noticed something. In the beginning, he would often see traces of cultivators. However, recently, he didn't see any cultivators. Something's not right. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. This strange situation attracted his attention. Something was clearly wrong. Lin Feng couldn't help but think of a certain possibility. Could it be that the god-eating demon made a move? 2 hours later, Lin Feng suddenly heard a scream from afar. Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. He hadn't seen any other cultivators for about 3 days. Now, he finally heard the voices of other cultivators. Lin Feng quickly flew towards the source of the sound. When he arrived, Lin Feng saw a cultivator lying on the ground. The cultivator was covered in blood. He was lying on the ground, unmoving. But Lin Feng was shocked to find that the cultivator wasn't dead. There was still an extremely weak aura. Lin Feng was about to quickly go over to check when the demon lord reminded him. Use the heavenly demon snake eye. The god-eating demon is extremely cunning. It's not normal for him to suddenly appear at this time. Hearing that, Lin Feng nodded and opened the heavenly demon snake eye. The heavenly demon snake eye was the eye of origin. It could see through all illusions. When Lin Feng saw the dying cultivator, he was shocked. Chapter 3401. If it wasn't for the demon lord's warning, Lin Feng wouldn't even have noticed that this cultivator was actually a man-eating demon. Man-eating demons were indeed extremely cunning. This man-eating demon had transformed into a heavily injured and dying cultivator in order to attract his attention. Then he let his guard down. When he went over to check on his condition, this man-eating demon would probably instantly explode. Then he would use his most powerful attack and launch a sudden attack on Lin Feng. Under such circumstances, Lin Feng might really fall into this man-eating demon's trap. Fortunately, Lin Feng had seen through this man-eating demon's scheme. Thus, Lin Feng wasn't worried about falling into this man-eating demon's trap. Lin Feng planned to beat this man-eating demon at his own game. Didn't this man-eating demon want to trick him? Lin Feng planned to pretend that he didn't know anything. Then, he approached this man-eating demon. When Lin Feng arrived next to this man-eating demon, Lin Feng unleashed a thunderous attack. Then, he attacked this man-eating demon. Lin Feng might even be able to kill this man-eating demon. Lin Feng had already established communication with several treasures. He quickly ran toward the man-eating demon. As he ran, he shouted, "Fellow Taoist, are you all right? What happened just now? What injured you? Idiot, if you come any closer, I'll immediately kill you." The man-eating demon couldn't help but laugh coldly. Naturally, he couldn't answer Lin Feng's questions right now. Moreover, this man-eating demon wanted to disguise himself as well. Thus, he didn't even dare to release his divine sense. Lin Feng guessed that most of the cultivators who entered this place had already been killed by this man-eating demon. The reason he hadn't attacked Lin Feng was probably because this man-eating demon sensed that Lin Feng wasn't easy to deal with. Therefore, the gluttonous god-fiend decided to attack him after killing everyone else. There was a high probability of this happening. Moreover, this man-eating demon wanted to deal with Lin Feng. He didn't even hesitate to use his schemes against Lin Feng. When Lin Feng arrived 3 meters away from the man-eating demon, Lin Feng's divine sense moved. Instantly, Black Dragon Sword, along with the 3 stone swords, they all flew towards the culinary god demon. It was a short-distance fight. Naturally, sword-type magic treasures were the most lethal. The power of the 4 swords was incomparably powerful. They instantly arrived beside the gluttonous god demon. Then, he charged toward the culinary god demon. "Brat, how dare you trick me?" The culinary god demon couldn't help but roar in anger. Originally, he wanted to scheme against Lin Feng. Who would have thought that Lin Feng would see through it, and he would be played by Lin Feng instead? The culinary god demon quickly got up and dodged the attacks of the 4 swords. But the distance was too close. The gluttonous god demon was only able to block the Black Dragon Sword's attack. The other 3 stone swords struck the culinary god demon directly. Poochie, poochie, poochie. Tearing sounds could be heard one after another. 3 bone-deep wounds appeared on the culinary god demon's body. The gluttonous god demon couldn't help but scream. The injuries caused by the stone sword were not as simple as 3 wounds. The sword chi from the stone sword would directly enter the culinary god demon's body. Then, it would cause great damage to the culinary god demon's internal organs. That was the most terrifying part. Therefore, the damage of the stone sword was extremely powerful. Now, the culinary god demon was injured by the stone sword. He was already severely injured when he was surrounded by more than 10 Emperor-level experts. His previous injuries hadn't healed yet, and now he was injured by the stone sword. Now, he was even more injured. The situation was extremely bad. "Brat, how dare you injure me so badly? You deserve to die. You deserve to die 10,000 times." The culinary god demon was very extraordinary. After being injured by the stone sword, he quickly retreated. After putting some distance between them, he looked at Lin Feng with a chilling gaze. It was a gaze of unforgettable hatred. He couldn't wait to cut Lin Feng into pieces. Seeing the chilling gaze on the culinary god demon's face, Lin Feng couldn't help but sneer. "How dare you boast so shamelessly when you're heavily injured? Today I'll kill you and refine you into a culinary god fruit to help me increase my combat strength. Brat, do you think I'm one of those culinary god demons you killed before? Even though I'm heavily injured, it's still easy to deal with you. The culinary god demon said coldly. Obviously, the culinary god demon should have sensed the culinary god demon emperor law in Lin Feng's body. The culinary god demon's cultivation realm was very high. Lin Feng didn't find it strange that he could sense the culinary god demon emperor law in his body. Boom. Both sides didn't hold back and started fighting. Now, Lin Feng had obtained 3 stone swords. The 3 stone swords could form a combination. With one thought, he could control the stone sword combination. It was like controlling Heis. With one thought, he could condense the 3 Heis into a magnetic field. Lin Feng activated the weapon mantra at the same time. The weapon mantra was one of the 9 secrets of Taoism. Lin Feng had already seen how powerful it was. It was just that he didn't know how to use the weapon mantra before. Now, Lin Feng had also learned the weapon mantra. Under the control of the weapon mantra, the power of the 3 stone swords was gradually released. The stone swords were one of the most terrifying magic treasures since ancient times. Lin Feng would never forget the scene he saw back then. A stone sword flew across the sky. With one sword, it killed a black fog creature at its peak. The power of the stone swords was unimaginably powerful. Previously, Lin Feng didn't have the incantation to control the stone swords, so he couldn't release the power of the stone swords. But now, Lin Feng had mastered the weapon mantra, although the weapon mantra couldn't release the full power of the stone swords. The weapon mantra could release part of the stone sword's power. The stone swords were supreme treasures. Even if they could only release part of their power, it was already terrifying enough. The 3 stone swords instantly arrived in front of the gluttonous god demon. The gluttonous god demon's voice was cold. Suppress your stone swords. The gluttonous god demon opened his hand and evolved a mysterious world. He wanted to use that mysterious world to suppress Lin Feng's stone swords. However, the gluttonous god demon had underestimated the power of the 3 stone swords. The 3 stone swords were Lin Feng's strongest combat power at the moment. The moment the 3 stone swords appeared, it was simply earth-shattering. They were so powerful, everyone turned pale, with fright, facing the suppression of the illusory world condensed by the gluttonous god demon. The 3 stone swords instantly pierced through the illusory world. Then, they flew in front of the gluttonous god demon as fast as lightning. The gluttonous god demon couldn't dodge in time. Pooh, pooh, pooh. 3 consecutive ripping sounds were heard. Chapter 34:02. Ah! The gluttonous god demon couldn't help but scream in agony as the 3 stone swords pierced his body. His body was severely injured. This kind of injury was fatal to the gluttonous god demon. When the 3 stone swords pierced the gluttonous god demon's body, the sword energy released by the stone swords almost destroyed his internal organs. The gluttonous god demon didn't die immediately because his cultivation was strong enough. The gluttonous god demon grabbed the 3 stone swords and pulled them out of his body. He threw all 3 stone swords out. He quickly retreated. Blood gushed out of the gluttonous god demon's body. Gluttonous god demon, it's time for you to die. Lin Feng's expression was cold as he continued to control the 3 stone swords to attack the gluttonous god demon. I can't accept this. I can't accept this. What kind of storms have I not seen in my life? But in the end, I actually died at the hands of an ant like you. I can't accept this. The gluttonous god demon knew that he had lost. However, he didn't want to die like this. He had already recovered to the peak of the sovereign emperor realm. If he had slowly recovered The day would have come. He would have regained his former glory. However, now, all hope seemed to have been extinguished. Lin Feng said indifferently, "I heard that you destroyed dozens of vital planets and devoured all the living beings on them. That's why so many experts from the sovereign sects surrounded you. Have you ever thought about how many innocent people have died at your hands? Have you ever thought about how great of a sin you've committed? There's a saying that goes, 'Those who commit too much injustice will bring about their own destruction.' This saying is very suitable for you." The gluttonous god demon said coldly, "The weak are prey to the strong. Only the fittest survive. Did I do anything wrong?" Lin Feng sneered, "Since you don't think you did anything wrong, then there's naturally nothing wrong with me killing you." After saying that, Lin Feng continued to attack the gluttonous god demon. The 3 stone swords, under the influence of Lin Feng's soldier incantation, were astonishingly strong. The 3 stone swords moved as fast as lightning and once again arrived before the gluttonous god demon. Then they attacked the gluttonous god demon. The gluttonous god demon couldn't resist the 3 stone swords. In the end, he was killed by Lin Feng's 3 stone swords. Bang! Lin Feng waved his sleeve, and the gluttonous god demon's body exploded, turning into a gluttonous god fruit. Lin god demon. Then he would find a place to refine the divine, eating fruit. Very few people came to this planet. Planet. Lin Feng found a secluded cave and sealed it with a deployment spell. Then he sat. Lin Feng continued to refine the gluttonous god fruit's medicinal power. It didn't take long for Lin Feng to completely refine the gluttonous god fruit's medicinal power. Although his cultivation realm didn't increase, his combat strength increased by a lot. Of course, what made Lin Feng the happiest was that after the gluttonous god fruit's medicinal power was refined, the emperor laws within the fruit appeared. There were actually a total of 8 emperor laws. These were the emperor laws of the emperor realm. The stronger the gluttonous god demon, the harder it was for their emperor laws to integrate into the gluttonous god fruit. Therefore, the gluttonous god demon actually left behind a total of 8 emperor laws after its death. It was extremely difficult. Lin Feng refined all 8 emperor laws. These were 8 emperor laws of the peak emperor realm. They were very powerful. It was hard to imagine. After refining the 8 emperor laws, Lin Feng felt as if his body had endless power. This feeling, it was too comfortable. After coming out of seclusion, Lin Feng continued to fly towards the undying realm on the ancient ship. On the way, he would often study this treasure, the heart plate. This was a heaven-defying compass. Lin Feng had been trying to comprehend the method to activate the heart plate. However, after trying many times, he didn't gain anything, which made Lin Feng feel quite disappointed. Although he was very disappointed, Lin Feng had always been a person who became braver the more setbacks he faced. Now, he couldn't find a way to activate the heart plate. It didn't mean that he couldn't find a way to activate the heart plate in the future. The harder it was to find a way to activate the heart plate, the more extraordinary the heart plate was. On this day, Lin Feng saw a huge world. That world was bigger than any of the planets Lin Feng had seen before. Cultivators and ancient starships arrived one after another from all directions, flying towards the vast and boundless world. "Brother, can you ask around what kind of world that is?" Lin Feng pointed at the huge world that appeared in the distant starry sky world. "That world is the 9 Mysteries' great world." The cultivator stopped by Lin Feng said impatiently. Then he quickly left. The 9 Mysteries' great world. Originally, this world was the 9 Mysteries' great world. Lin Feng was very surprised. If the 9 Mysteries' great world hadn't died in the 9 prefectures, it would still be in a flourishing state. The current situation of the Nine Mysteries' Great World was quite similar to that of the Nine Prefectures' Great World. After the Nine Mysteries' Great World's death, many forces came to the Nine Mysteries' Great World to snatch its resources. Then, they besieged the Nine Mysteries' Great World's clansmen. They wanted to obtain the treasure that the Nine Mysteries' Great World's Great World had. Lin Feng didn't know what that treasure was. Perhaps some people knew, but Lin Feng guessed that those who knew what it was must be as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. So many cultivators came to the Nine Mysteries' Great World, not just for that treasure. Although the supreme treasure from the supreme celestial court was incomparably precious, there was only one of it. Many people came to the Nine Mysteries' Great World to get as many benefits as they could. The Nine Mysteries' Great World was one of the 3,000 great worlds. Although it ranked lower, it was still one of the 3,000 great worlds. Therefore, there were still many treasures in the Nine Mysteries' Great World. Some top forces even had their eyes on the great world origin of the Nine Mysteries' Great World, wanting to seize it. The great world origin was too precious. If they could get enough of it, it might be able to help cultivators become immortals. I heard that the treasure from the divine court hasn't been found by many forces yet. I wonder what it is. Lin Feng couldn't help muttering to himself. He was also very interested in that treasure. Buzz, buzz. Suddenly, the two fire talismans in Lin Feng's hands emitted fluctuations again. Moreover, Chapter 3403. Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. The fluctuation from the fire demon talisman was so intense. Could it be that the third fire demon talisman was in the Nine Mysteries world? Thinking of this, Lin Feng couldn't help but be happy. If that was the case, it would naturally be a good thing for him. If he could find the third fire demon talisman, the fire demon talisman would be reorganized. When the time came, he would be able to evolve his martial soul once more. Lin Feng quickly flew towards the Nine Mysteries world. When Lin Feng landed in the Nine Mysteries world, the fluctuation of the fire demon talisman disappeared. Lin Feng's fire demon talisman couldn't sense the whereabouts of the third fire demon talisman at any time and place. It was always intermittent. If I can understand the secret of the heart plate and get the method to control it, maybe I can find the whereabouts of the third fire demon talisman with the help of the heart plate. Lin Feng couldn't help but say, it was a pity. The heart plate was mysterious and had an incredible positioning ability. But Lin Feng couldn't activate the heart plate now. Lin Feng used the innate 8 trigrams to deduce. The result was that Lin Feng went all the way west. The location of the fire demon talisman seemed to be somewhere in the western region of the Nine Mysteries world. But Lin Feng couldn't deduce the specific location. After all, Lin Feng didn't practice the innate 8 trigrams for a long time. In addition, the deduction technique was mysterious and unpredictable. How could it be so easy to master it? Everything needed to be done step by step. It couldn't be done in a flash. It was unrealistic. For Lin Feng, it was good enough to know the approximate location. At least he knew the direction to look for it. And Lin Feng believed that as he got closer to the location of the fire demon talisman, at that time, the 2 fire demon talismans on him would also react. At that time, the 2 fire demon talismans on him would definitely guide him to find the third fire demon talisman. The Nine Mysteries world was very chaotic because too many forces came to fight for the resources of the Nine Mysteries world. So, cultivators fighting could be seen everywhere. It was like a river of blood. It was extremely difficult for the native forces of the Nine Mysteries' great world to survive. Many local forces were destroyed during this period of time. The situation was dire. This kind of thing was predictable. Whenever a force was invaded, its native forces would usually suffer a heavy blow. On this day, Lin Feng saw the woman in white from afar. Previously, the white-clothed woman had been surrounded and attacked by the black fog creatures. There seemed to be something on the white-robed woman that the black fog creature had set its eyes on. An item that could catch the attention of a being from the previous era definitely had an extraordinary origin. Therefore, the identity of the white-clothed woman would definitely cause people to speculate. Lin Feng had previously made a deal with this woman in white at the trade fair. Lin Feng had heard through the grapevine that this woman in white might be related to the undying realm, but whether it was true or not, Lin Feng was not sure. She's been looking for something, and now she's in the Nine Mysteries' great world. Could it be that the thing she's looking for has also appeared in the Nine Mysteries' great world? Lin Feng couldn't help muttering to himself. The white-clothed woman also saw Lin Feng, but she didn't say anything. Her expression was cold as she quickly left. Lin Feng couldn't help but twitch his mouth. After all, they had made a deal before. She actually had such a cold expression. What a heartless woman. Lin Feng flew all the way to the west. Along the way, many opportunities appeared, but Lin Feng didn't care about them. He didn't stop to compete with others for those opportunities. This was because Lin Feng's thoughts were all on the third fire demon talisman. If he could find the third fire demon talisman, it was too important to him. The third fire demon talisman was enough to transform Lin Feng's martial soul. Lin Feng was looking forward to seeing his devouring martial soul evolve again. His martial soul was closely related to him. When his devouring martial soul evolved, Lin Feng's battle strength would increase greatly. Half a month later, Lin Feng arrived at the famous Nine Black Fallen Immortal Realm in the Nine Black Great World. It was an endless stretch of ancient forest. The place was very quiet. Nine Black Fallen Immortal Realm, the legendary land of fallen immortals. That place was almost a forbidden zone for life. Although there were countless opportunities, few people took the risk to enter it. That was because that place was too dangerous. Many experts had been buried there in the past. Countless years ago, someone saw an immortal fall from the outer world into the depths of the forest. It was said that an immortal could form a strong magnetic field. Therefore, after the immortal fell, he changed the law of heaven and earth and gradually turned this place into a forbidden zone for life. Many cultivators gathered outside the Nine Black Fallen Immortal Realm. Some of them were quite familiar with the legend of the Nine Black Fallen Immortal Realm. I heard another version. A cultivator said, it was different from what the previous cultivator had heard. The cultivator said, it's said that a continent fell from the sky when the Sciention life forms ruled the heavens and realms. Later, the fallen continent formed the Joshuan Fallen Immortal Realm. More and more people came out with a few more legends. However, it was impossible to tell which of the legends about the Nine Profound Fallen Immortal Realm was the real deal, because no one had experienced what had happened back then. That was something that had happened countless years ago. Later generations could only understand what had happened back then from some legends. How much of what everyone knew was true, and how much was made up by the later generations? Who knew? Buzz. As Lin Feng looked into the depths of the Nine Black Fallen Immortal Realm, the two fire demon talismans in his mountain river ring vibrated again. Lin Feng was shocked. He looked into the depths of the Nine Black Fallen Immortal Realm. Could the fire demon talismans be in the depths of the Nine Black Fallen Immortal Realm? Maybe it was possible. Lin Feng felt that he had to enter the 9 black fallen immortal realm to search. At this moment, a beam of immortal light shot up into the sky from the 9 black fallen immortal realm. What's that? Many people were shocked. Something could be vaguely seen floating in the immortal light. Upon closer inspection, it seemed to be a scepter. As time passed, everyone could finally see what was inside the immortal light. It really was a scepter, and a golden one at that. A golden scepter. What's so special about it? A cultivator asked, puzzled. Could it be that thing? An old cultivator asked, his expression uncertain. He seemed to have thought of something shocking. Senior, what is that scepter? A cultivator asked impatiently. It's very likely to be the legendary divine scepter. Hiss. Chapter 3404. This was Lin Feng's first time hearing the name Holy Scepter. He didn't know the origin of the Holy Scepter. There were many cultivators like Lin Feng who had never heard of the Holy Scepter. They didn't know what the Holy Scepter was either. However, from the shocked expressions in the eyes of those who had heard of the Holy Scepter, one could tell how extraordinary the Holy Scepter was. The old cultivator said, "Do you know the division of forces in the innate life form era? Nuwa, Pangu, Fire God Jurong, 12 ancestral shamans, and so on were all experts of that era, and they stood at the peak," a cultivator said. Indeed, many experts appeared in that era, and those experts often had many followers, which formed the earliest division of forces. However, the existences we are talking about all belong to the forces of the Eastern Universe world. The old man said, "Eastern Universe world, what does that mean?" Many people couldn't help but be puzzled. You meant boundless and limitless. You meant the fusion of time and space. The meaning of the universe was the boundless world. It also meant the boundless starry sky world. Therefore, in the world of cultivators, all the starry sky, stars, worlds, parallel spaces, and so on included in an era were collectively called universe. However, countless people had never heard of the concept of the Eastern Universe world. The old man continued, "Everyone should know that everything in the world is divided into yin and yang." At this point, the old man glanced at the surrounding cultivators. Many people nodded. Of course, everyone knew this. It was like day and night, men and women, the sun and the moon. Everything in the world seemed to follow the cycle of yin and yang. The old man continued, "Although the universe is only a macroscopic concept, in reality, the universe also follows the principle of the cycle of yin and yang. Therefore, there was the division of the Eastern Universe and the Western Universe. The beginning of the era, the Eastern and Western universes gave birth to each other, and in the Eastern Universe, existences like Pangu, Nuwa, and so on appeared. And in the Western Universe, terrifying existences like Zeus, Allah, God, and Odin appeared. The development of the Eastern and Western universes is different, but in history, two universes with different cultures will collide sooner or later. Therefore, in the great wars since ancient times, in addition to the wars between the creatures of the previous era, the creatures of the alien domain, and the innate realm, there are also wars between the forces of the Western universe and the Western universe. It's just that too much time has passed, and a lot of information has disappeared. When the era of sentient life forms ended, there was an unprecedented disaster. Even cultivation was cut off, not to mention the Taoist scriptures that recorded the historical records. They were all destroyed in the Great War. That's why the world doesn't know much about the Western universe anymore." After hearing the old man's words, countless people were shocked. For too many people, the Western universe was full of mysteries and unknowns. It was even full of fear and worry. The cultivation system of the Western universe forces was definitely different from the cultivation system of the Eastern universe forces. However, this didn't affect the strength of the powers in the Western universe. Lin Feng was also shocked. This was the first time he had heard about the Western universe. For example, Zeus, Allah, God, and other existences. This was also the first time Lin Feng had heard about them. Of course, from the old man's description, he could clearly know how terrifying those existences were. They should be existences of the same era as Niwa, Pangu, and the others. Lin Feng didn't know if the demon lord knew about the Western universe. Anyway, the demon lord had never mentioned the Western universe to him before. At this time, the old man continued, "The Holy Scepter is the top treasure of the Western universe world." Many people couldn't help but be moved, since it was the top treasure of the Western universe. Its power was definitely very powerful. Moreover, if they could get the Holy Scepter, they might be able to understand the Western universe world in detail through the Holy Scepter. Soon, the holy light disappeared. The Holy Scepter also disappeared. However, the news quickly spread. Many major forces were alarmed, and more experts came here. Lin Feng felt that perhaps he could continue to wait. The Jiuquan fallen immortal domain was very dangerous. If those top forces entered to look for the Holy Scepter, the dangers in the Jiuquan fallen immortal domain would most likely be attracted by those top forces. When he entered the Jiuquan fallen immortal domain, the danger factor would be much lower. Boom. A day later, a terrifying expert arrived. It was an expert at the Emperor's sect level, shrouded in a demonic light. It was a Saint Demon expert. Soon, more Emperor sect level experts arrived, their bodies surrounded by Emperor Qi. It's a cultivator from the Mystic God clan. It's rumored that they are an extremely mysterious clan. A cultivator said, "The various races outside the domain, including the myriad races of the heavenly sage great world, there were cultivators arriving. The experts were as numerous as clouds, gathered here. On the third day, the sound of the heavenly Tao resounded through the world. Next, in the distance, a 9-headed dragon pulled a divine chariot over. Around the divine chariot, there were more than 10 great emperors guarding it. Everyone was shocked because the other party's formation was too big. Who is it? Could it be a Saint Emperor? Many people were shocked. Perhaps only a Saint Emperor's trip would cause such a huge formation. Lin Feng couldn't help but look at the divine chariot in the distance. 9 dragons pulling the chariot. It was extremely noble. Finally, the divine chariot stopped in the void. One of the great emperors lifted the curtain. A young man in embroidered robes walked out of the divine chariot. It was a very young and handsome young master. When they saw the young master, everyone was astonished. Originally, everyone thought that it was a Saint Emperor. Who would have thought that it was just a young cultivator? For such a young cultivator to travel with such a huge entourage, it was simply too inconceivable. Who is that person? Could he be a direct descendant of a superpower? Someone asked. He was very curious about that young cultivator. Many people were discussing the young man's identity. Someone said, "That young man is from the heavenly human clan. I think his name is Tianwuya." What? The legendary heavenly human clan cultivator. Countless people heard the cultivator's words. Chapter 3405. The Celestial Race. What an ancient race. This was the earliest human race. It was also one of the most powerful human forces. The ancestors of the primordial era were actually the celestial race, the immortal race, and other races. Originally, these humans had also experienced weakness. However, after experiencing many upheavals, not only did they not go extinct, they became stronger and stronger. Later, after the War of the Liches and Demons, the celestial race, and the immortal race joined forces to occupy the supreme heaven realm. However, at this time, the human race was very divided. The celestial race and the immortal race were still powerful, but the bloodlines of many human tribes began to weaken. Their physical bodies were not as strong as before. The celestial race and the immortal race no longer recognized themselves as humans because they looked down on those human forces that were becoming more and more ordinary. Perhaps the primordial era human race, the celestial race, and the immortal race were the only human forces whose bloodlines had not weakened. Today, the celestial race and the immortal race were still powerful. The heaven realm was still under the joint control of the celestial race and the immortal race. It was said that even the celestial emperor, the leader of the undying realm, which was ranked first in the 3,000 great worlds, he was also an expert of the celestial race. In order to better control the undying realm, the celestial emperor had just come to the undying realm from the supreme heaven realm. To the cultivators of the mortal world, the celestial race and the immortal race were basically legendary races. In the mortal world, there were no cultivators of the celestial race and the immortal race at all. If all the worlds in the Eastern universe were regarded as a centralized country, then the celestial race and the immortal race would be the supreme ruler. And these direct descendants of the celestial race and the immortal race, they would take in princes and princesses. Their status was high and mighty. Now that they knew Tian Wuya's identity, everyone finally understood why a young cultivator like Tian Wuya would be followed by so many emperor-level experts. This was the prince of the Eastern Universe world. Any cultivator of any faction would naturally have to curry favor with Tian Wuya when they saw him. It's very rare to hear of the celestial race or the immortal race's clansmen moving around in the mortal world. At most, they would move around in the undying world and a few other top-ranked worlds. How did this Tian Wuya come to our 9 mysteries great world, the Star Ocean world, where our 9 mysteries world is located, is already far away from the center of the universe. It is equivalent to a frontier area of a centralized country. Such a royal family member would not come to such a frontier area to suffer. Some cultivators voiced out their doubts. Who knows what these big shots are thinking? Maybe there are some unknown things that need to be dealt with. So I came to this Star Sea world and heard many things about the 9 mysterious world. So I came to the 9 mysterious world. Someone said Tian Wuya stood outside the 9 profound fallen immortal realm. His eyes seemed to be able to see through the past, present, and future. Tian Wuya was really too young. Lin Feng felt that this person's lifespan should only be around 100 years. However, his cultivation was actually at the Imperial Emperor realm. This was truly inconceivable. He had no idea how this fellow cultivated, but then he remembered that Tian Wuya was from the heavenly human tribe. He must have all kinds of cultivation resources. If he encountered a cultivation bottleneck, he would definitely have extremely powerful teachers to guide his cultivation. This was not something that ordinary cultivators could compare with. Is this Tian Wuya from the undying realm or the celestial realm? Lin Feng could not help but mutter. A powerful force like the heavenly human tribe was definitely divided into many factions. For example, the celestial emperor belonged to one of the factions. Moreover, he belonged to the feudal officials. He held an important position in the heavenly human tribe. The celestial emperor was just a title. In fact, the celestial emperor's surname was Di. The celestial emperor's son, Di Wudao, had followed his father in the past. However, he betrayed his father and even plotted against him. Otherwise, the tragedy would not have happened. His mother would not have been suppressed. His uncle, whom he had never met, would not have died, and his father would not have been seriously injured. Tian Wuya, and Di Wu Dao both belonged to the heavenly human tribe. However, their surnames were different. Perhaps they belonged to different factions. When the experts of the Starry Sky realm saw Tian Wuya, they wanted to go up and greet him. However, they were stopped by the great emperors beside Tian Wuya. The group of experts had ugly expressions. However, when faced with someone as important as Tian Wuya, they could only swallow their pride. They could only swallow their pride. They could only retreat with their tails between their legs. Which one of them isn't a famous expert in the Starry Sky realm? If it were any other time, they would have already flared up. But now, they don't even dare to say a word. Someone could not help but sigh. Perhaps the important figures in our eyes are just ants in the eyes of the heavenly human tribe. Someone else said. Many people nodded. Perhaps only those who had reached the sage emperor, emperor lord, or even the immortal realm. That was why the heavenly human tribe and immortal tribe valued them. The apocalypse has arrived, and the worlds have been destroyed. However, with the strength of the heavenly human tribe and immortal tribe, they will definitely be able to survive until the next era. Lin Feng could not help but think. Let's go. Let's go in and take a look. Tian Wuya said. Yes, young master. The great emperors beside Tian Wuya replied. These great emperors did not dare to hesitate. They hurriedly followed Tian Wuya into the 9 profound, fallen, immortal realm. After these people entered the 9 profound, fallen, immortal realm, cultivators flew into the 9 profound, fallen, immortal realm one after another. However, most of the cultivators who entered the 9 profound, fallen, immortal realm were great emperors. Without reaching the great emperor realm, these cultivators did not dare to enter the 9 profound, fallen, immortal realm casually. After all, the 9 profound, fallen, immortal realm was very dangerous. Without reaching the great emperor realm, entering the 9 profound, fallen, immortal realm was no different from suicide. Lin Feng also entered the 9 profound, fallen, immortal realm because the fire demon talisman was in the 9 profound, fallen, immortal realm. No matter how dangerous it was, he had to enter and search for it. Fortunately, there were already many cultivators who had entered the 9 profound, fallen, immortal realm. These cultivators helped Lin Feng attract many dangers in the 9 profound, fallen, immortal realm. The 9 profound, fallen, immortal realm was very quiet, surrounded by white mist. This white mist separated the 9 profound, fallen, immortal realm from the outside world. Looking into the 9 profound, fallen, immortal realm from the outside world, one could not see the situation inside at all. Unless there was a huge commotion like when the golden scepter appeared and a glaring light was released, the cultivators outside would not be able to see it clearly. Buzz, buzz. After entering the 9 profound, fallen, immortal realm, the 2 fire demon talismans vibrated more and more violently. Lin Feng took out the 2 fire demon talismans. Chapter 3406. Lin Feng's face lit up with joy. It seemed that the 2 fire demon talismans must have sensed the aura of the 3rd one. That was why they took the initiative to fly deeper. Lin Feng followed the 2 fire demon talismans all the way into the Jiuquan fallen immortal realm. The Jiuquan fallen immortal realm contained extremely terrifying and powerful restrictions. Those restrictions contained terrifying power that could destroy heaven and earth. However, those restrictions couldn't hurt Lin Feng because Lin Feng's research on large arrays had reached a level of perfection. No matter how powerful the restrictions were, it wasn't easy to hurt Lin Feng. Just like the restrictions here. Although they were very powerful, they couldn't hurt Lin Feng. Therefore, Lin Feng's journey was relatively smooth. When he arrived at the 5th mountain, Lin Feng felt a cold aura spread all over his body. The fire demon talisman also stopped and floated in midair. White fog rolled. This place severely restrained the mental power of a cultivator. Therefore, Lin Feng's perception was severely suppressed. When his divine thought searched for the source of the cold aura, but he didn't find anything, Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. Swoosh! At this moment, a chill came from behind. Then a cold light suddenly appeared. Looking carefully, it turned out to be a sharp claw. It reached out from the void and grabbed at Lin Feng. Lin Feng didn't even notice all this in advance. This showed how terrifying the existence was. However, Lin Feng's reaction was fast enough. Now, his body seemed to have an instinctive reaction. This was an ability to actively avoid danger that he had developed in countless battles. When the terrifying attack came, Lin Feng's body would actively avoid it. It was the same this time. Whoosh! When the danger came, his body moved horizontally to the left. Immediately, he dodged that terrifying attack by a hair's breadth. And the terrifying existence that attacked Lin Feng disappeared without a trace again. Lin Feng searched with his divine thought, but he found nothing. What a terrifying existence! Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. Although he couldn't pinpoint the exact location of the terrifying existence, when the terrifying existence approached Lin Feng's body would have an unprecedented sense of tension. This was a sense of unknown danger. At this moment, Lin Feng had this feeling again. Lin Feng knew that terrifying existence must have appeared again. That terrifying existence must be closing in on him at a rapid pace. So, the situation was extremely bad. However, Lin Feng wasn't without a way to deal with it. He performed the 1 qi into 3 pure ones. 2 clones appeared. Then, the 9 domineering aura magnetic field. The power of the 9 layers domineering magnetic field was so terrifying that it could make ghosts and gods pale in comparison. When the 9 aura magnetic field was released, the terrifying creature that could merge into the void and attack silently was immediately enveloped by Lin Feng's 9 domineering magnetic field. After being enveloped by the 9 domineering magnetic field, the terrifying creature could no longer completely hide its body. A silver-white figure flashed and disappeared. But soon it became invisible again. Found you! Lin Feng's expression was cold, although the silver-white figure only appeared for a short time. However, Lin Feng was still staring at the silver-white silhouette. The silver-white figure. There was nowhere to hide. Then, Lin Feng took out 3 stone swords. The 3 stone swords were as fast as lightning as they slashed forward. The speed was too fast. Clang! Clang! 2 consecutive clangs of collision were heard. 2 of the stone swords were hit by the creature hidden in the void. The 2 stone swords were sent flying. However, the 3rd stone sword unleashed its might and struck the terrifying creature that was hiding in the void. A puff was heard. The 3rd stone sword tore the body of the terrifying creature apart. Fresh blood immediately spurted out. Screech! The being hidden in the void couldn't help but let out a painful shriek. Then it rushed out of Lin Feng's 9 domineering magnetic field. What a powerful creature! If I didn't have so many tricks up my sleeve, I might have really fallen into the hands of this creature. After the terrifying creature left, Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. It was really dangerous just now. Fortunately, Lin Feng's methods were extraordinary, and he successfully resolved the danger. There are quite a few great emperors who have entered this place. I think some of them will fall here. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. This was completely predictable, because the Jiu Xian Fallen Immortal region was indeed incomparably dangerous. Hum, hum. the two fire demon talismans that were floating motionlessly in the air vibrated violently again. Then the two fire demon talismans continued to fly deeper. Lin Feng followed the two fire demon talismans. In the end, the two fire demon talismans arrived in front of a cave on the sixth mountain. That cave, it was extremely deep. Waves of gloomy and cold aura were emitted from the cave. After feeling the gloomy and cold aura, Lin Feng couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. The inside of this cave was probably not a safe place. Perhaps there was something terrifying hidden inside. However, the two fire demon talismans flew into the cave without hesitation. The third fire demon talisman is in the cave. Lin Feng couldn't help but show a surprised expression. He followed the two fire demon talismans into the cave. Along the way, Lin Feng was very cautious, because this place was a forbidden zone for life. In such a dangerous place, one must be careful at all times. Or else, you might die in such a dangerous place. The cave was extremely long. After walking for a long time, he still couldn't reach the end. Half an hour later, a huge mountain appeared in front of him. Lin Feng entered the mountain. The two fire demon talismans were floating in the mountain. Lin Feng looked at the rock wall of the mountain. Suddenly, he showed an extremely shocked expression. He saw that there were murals on the rock wall. He didn't know who carved the murals. Those murals were surrounded by immortal power. Therefore, even though an extremely long time had passed, those murals were still preserved. If it weren't for the immortal power surrounding those murals, perhaps they would have been destroyed by the power of time. What are these murals painted? Lin Feng was puzzled. He quickly walked towards a mural. Then Lin Feng saw that this mural was actually a stone tower. The stone tower had a total of 7 floors. There were many stone pillars on each floor of the stone tower. Chapter 3407. A person tied to a pillar? What does that mean? Lin Feng couldn't help but feel puzzled. The demon lord said, "Sacrifice. It's a type of sacrifice from a very long time ago. This type of sacrifice is very evil. It binds a person to a pillar, and the pillar will gradually suck away the person's essence, blood, and soul. In the end, the person tied to the pillar will only be left with a skeleton." Hearing this type of sacrifice, Lin Feng's expression couldn't help but change slightly. This was using a living person as a sacrifice. This type of sacrifice was incomparably evil and forbidden. Of course, in extremely ancient times, this type of sacrifice might have been allowed. Stone pagoda, stone pillars, when will such sacrificial rituals be used? Lin Feng asked. The demon lord said, "This type of sacrifice should only be used in burial. Because it's too cruel, this type of sacrifice was lost later on." Burial? Could it be that this stone pagoda is actually a burial ground? Lin Feng couldn't help but ask. His expression became serious. A stone tower was actually used as a burial ground. It seemed that the existence that had fallen back then was extremely extraordinary. Perhaps he was a peerless and invincible expert. Yes, it should be a burial ground. In the Stone Age and some eras before, some top forces would often use stone burial methods. The so-called stone burial method is to create powerful stone treasures, such as the more common stone coffins. Of course, there are also many things made of stone. The corpses of experts would be placed in these things made of stone. Some of the more evil forces would carry out extremely cruel and evil sacrifices during burial. This type of sacrifice is very strange. For example, this type of sacrifice that appears on the murals. It binds a person to a stone pillar, and the cultivator's essence, blood, and soul will be completely devoured. This is a type of sacrifice from that era. The demon lord continued. Lin Feng couldn't help but touch his chin. He continued to look at the murals. The second mural showed a group of people carrying a stone coffin into a stone tower. Stone coffin, stone tower. It seems that the identity of the person who died all those years ago was not ordinary at all. Lin Feng said. The third mural appeared on the 7th floor of the stone tower. The group of people carried the sarcophagus to the 7th floor. On the ground of the 7th floor of the stone tower, there was an unknown array. The sarcophagus was placed in the center of the formation by the group of people. The demon lord said, "Many forces in that era believed in the resurrection of the dead. They felt that the soul of the dead had temporarily left the body, and that the soul would return again one day. Therefore, in that era, people generally did not burn the body after death, but preserved the body very well. Look at the array on the 7th floor of the tower. If I'm not wrong, that should be a resurrection array set up by this evil force to resurrect the dead. Resurrection array? There's such a formation?" Lin Feng couldn't help but reveal an extremely shocked expression. This was the first time he had heard of the so-called resurrection array. Yes, at that time, there were indeed many forces that researched all kinds of resurrection arrays. Because the era was different, the concept was different as well. Some of the actions of the people of that era might be inconceivable, but in their era, it was very normal. The demon lord said. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat, because Lin Feng discovered that the demon lord had a very clear understanding of things that happened in the distant past. When the demon lord had just awakened, his memories were incomplete. He didn't even remember who he was. Now, the demon lord actually remembered things that happened so long ago so clearly. It seemed that the demon lord had recovered quite well. Lin Feng continued to look at the murals. The murals at the back were scenes of various sacrifices. Many creatures appeared and surrounded the stone pagoda. Then they began to worship it. The last mural was filled with endless black fog. The boundless black fog completely covered the stone pagoda. Then the stone pagoda disappeared. After seeing this scene, Lin Feng was very surprised. How did the stone tower disappear? Could it be related to the sudden appearance of the black fog? Where did the stone tower go after it disappeared? But there were no more murals at the back. So, everything was a mystery. After Lin Feng finished looking at the murals, he couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Why would these murals appear in this place? Did these murals hint at something? Lin Feng thought. These murals shouldn't have appeared in this place for no reason. There must be some deep meaning in it. At this time, Lin Feng suddenly had a feeling of being on his back. It was as if he was being stared at by some terrifying creature. Lin Feng seemed to have sensed something and looked up. He immediately saw. At the top of the rock wall, there were actually densely packed stone bats. After seeing those stone bats, Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed. One must know, the Stone Clan was a very terrifying creature, and it was very difficult to see Stone Clan creatures. But there were so many stone bats in front of him. This was too terrifying. The stone bats looked at Lin Feng with their cold eyes. Those pairs of eyes flashed with dense killing intent. Some stone bats seemed to still be in a deep sleep and hadn't woken up. But many stone bats had already woken up, and at this moment, there were more stone bats that were constantly waking up from their deep sleep. It was really terrifying. Lin Feng's face couldn't help but reveal an extremely solemn expression. There were too many stone bats, and their aura was very terrifying. It made his hair stand on end. If he was besieged by these stone bats, the consequences would be unimaginable. Lin Feng was very clear about this point. So Lin Feng planned to quickly leave this place before these stone bats attacked. Whoosh! At this time, 2 fire demon talismans flew as fast as lightning towards the depths of the mountain. In the blink of an eye, they had already rushed into a passage in the depths of the mountain. Lin Feng gritted his teeth. He didn't fly out, but rushed into the deeper passage. Screech! At this time, the densely packed stone bats let out a sharp, ear-piercing cry. Then those stone bats spread their wings and rushed towards Lin Feng. Chapter 3408. The terrifying waves coming from behind were simply suffocating. Lin Feng increased his speed to the extreme. Those stone bats were in hot pursuit, and those stone bats could release powerful sound wave attacks. Those sound waves condensed together. They attacked Lin Feng again and again. The sound wave attacks of these stone bats were extremely strange. Not only could they form a powerful physical attack, they could also have a great impact on a cultivator's soul. Before the sound waves arrived, they had already shaken the void and launched a soul attack on Lin Feng from a long distance. Lin Feng's soul had been greatly affected by it. He almost fell headfirst into the abyss. But fortunately, Lin Feng's soul was strong enough to withstand the sound wave attack at the critical moment. Therefore, Lin Feng stabilized his body. Then he quickly dodged and moved, avoiding the terrifying sound waves that were bombarding him. These stone bats are so freakishly strong. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. The stone bats were so terrifying that people couldn't help but be shocked. Fortunately, Lin Feng's means were also extremely extraordinary. Otherwise, he might have died under the attack of the stone bats just now. Lin Feng stepped on the world in all directions. He increased his speed to the extreme. Fast, fast, fast. Lin Feng's speed was extremely fast. He gradually pulled some distance away from the stone bats, although he couldn't shake off those stone bats. But fortunately, the distance between the two sides was quite far, and this distance was considered a safe distance. The stone bats' attacks couldn't cross this distance to hurt Lin Feng for the time being. Therefore, Lin Feng couldn't help but show an expression of relief on his face. At this moment, Lin Feng saw that the passage ahead was getting wider and wider. After rushing out of the passage, Lin Feng saw a huge underground rift valley. The 2 fire demon talismans quickly rushed into the underground rift valley. Lin Feng also quickly chased after the 2 fire demon talismans. After the stone bats reached this place, they didn't continue to chase Lin Feng. After those stone bats let out a shrill cry of unwillingness, they quickly left. Lin Feng, on the other hand, flew all the way down. The further down they went, the higher the temperature. When Lin Feng arrived at the bottom of the Great Rift Valley, he discovered that there was a world of magma below the Great Rift Valley. This was a magma world formed underground. Everywhere was boiling magma. The 2 fire demon talismans flew towards the depths of the lava world. Lin Feng continued to follow behind the 2 fire devil talismans. Looks like we're about to reach the location of the 3rd fire demon talisman. Lin Feng's face lit up with joy. Once he obtained the 3rd fire demon talisman, his martial soul would evolve once again. Roar! Suddenly, the roar resounded throughout the world. Clattering sounds could be heard. Next, a large amount of lava splashed in all directions. A terrifying existence rushed out of the world of lava. It was a giant fiery red beast. Its whole body was like a round meatball. After rushing out, it opened its bloody mouth and swallowed Lin Feng. It wanted to eat Lin Feng in one bite. Is this a chaos divine beast? Lin Feng's face revealed a shocked expression. The creature that rushed out looked like the legendary chaos divine beast. The demon lord said, "It's not a chaos divine beast, but a magma giant beast. This magma giant beast's appearance is quite similar to a chaos divine beast, but its strength is far inferior. Although the magma giant beast's strength and the chaos divine beast's strength were quite different, but that was because the magma giant beast was inferior to the chaos divine beast. But in fact, the magma giant beast was also an extremely terrifying existence. Of course, Lin Feng was even more powerful. This magma giant beast wanted to compete with Lin Feng. Lin Feng's body quickly moved to the left and immediately dodged the magma giant beast's attack. Then Lin Feng raised his right hand and used his palm as a knife. He directly slashed out a blow. Puff! The power of that blow was so tyrannical that it made people turn pale with fright. It directly split the magma giant beast down the middle. Blood spurted out. The magma giant beast's huge body fell into the lava. In an instant, it was drowned by the boiling lava. Lin Feng continued to fly deeper into the lava. The fire demon talisman stopped above a piece of boiling lava. But that place was very ordinary. Lin Feng didn't see anything special. Could the third fire demon talisman be under the lava? Lin Feng couldn't help but think. He was about to enter the depths of the lava to explore, but he didn't expect that the fire demon talisman would undergo a shocking change. The runes on the fire demon talisman lit up. Looking carefully, it was actually 2 maps. They were 2 maps to find the third fire demon talisman. Both fire demon talismans shot out a beam of light, and that beam of light shone into the lava below. Rumbling sounds came from under the lava. Then a stone platform broke through the lava and appeared in Lin Feng's sight. He saw a fiery red toad lying on the stone platform. But that fiery red toad was no longer alive. In the mouth of the fiery red toad, there was a fire demon talisman. The fiery toad had a talisman in its mouth. That fiery red toad was definitely not an ordinary character. Lin Feng even felt a suffocating pressure from the body of the fiery red toad. That fiery red toad had been dead for so many years, but its body could still release such a powerful pressure. He really didn't know how terrifying the power of that fiery red toad was when it was alive. Lin Feng's face couldn't help but reveal an extremely shocked expression. He flew toward the fiery red toad. But at that moment, someone flew over from afar. Lin Feng looked over and found that there were a total of 7 people. Among these people, Lin Feng only knew one of them, which was the white-clothed woman who was besieged by the black fog creatures. Of course, he didn't really know her. After all, Lin Feng didn't even know the name of the white-clothed woman. They had only met a few times and made a deal at the trade fair on planet Lanzhao. As for the other 6 people, Lin Feng had never seen them before. These 7 people came together. They probably joined forces to resist the attack of the stone bats and arrived here. But after coming in, they distanced themselves from each other. They were clearly not from the same camp. Previously, they were only temporarily working together to deal with the stone bats. Martial talismans. 3 martial talismans. An Emperor Realm cultivator looked at the 3 fire demon talismans in shock. The other cultivators also saw the 3 fire demon talismans, but they weren't very interested, because they weren't human cultivators. Those cultivators all looked at the fiery red toad lying on the stone platform. Holy fire toad! It really is this terrifying creature. In the past, it was only 1 step away from becoming an immortal. It was said that when it was refining some kind of heavenly fire, it was devoured by the heavenly fire and finally died. Chapter 3409. Hearing this, Lin Feng couldn't help but be surprised. It was 1 step away from becoming an immortal. It seemed to be a subimmortal existence, but in the end, it died from the backlash of refining the heavenly fire. What a pity. However, this was the world of cultivators. It was an extremely cruel world. Many cultivators might have cultivated to an extremely high level, but in the end, they still couldn't escape death. Take this holy flame toad, for example. In the past, it was only one step away from becoming an immortal, but in the end, it still died. It was really sad. Lin Feng couldn't help but think of another possibility. The reason why this holy flame toad died, was it because, in the past, it wanted to use the heavenly fire to break through to the immortal realm, but it was devoured by the heavenly fire. Thinking about it carefully, it was really possible. Lin Feng couldn't sense the aura of the heavenly fire. This meant that there was no heavenly fire that the holy flame toad refined in the past, was the clue to the heavenly fire on the holy flame toad. Thinking of this, Lin Feng felt his heartbeat suddenly become much faster. Heavenly fire. It was equally important to him, because heavenly fire could play an extremely important role in many cases. If one could gather 9 types of heavenly fire, they could form the legendary 9 heavenly fire immortal slaughtering formation and other top heavenly fire formations. It was said that once these heavenly fire formations were used, they could directly refine a great world. If an immortal realm expert was trapped in such a heavenly fire array, only death would await them in the end. Of course, these were just legends after all. Lin Feng didn't know whether they were true or not. He would have to wait until Lin Feng collected all 9 types of heavenly fire in the future to know. Lin Feng now had 5 types of heavenly fire. It would be even better if he could get the heavenly fire that the holy flame toad failed to refine in the past. When the time came, Lin Feng collected 6 types of heavenly fire. Everyone, you're late. The things here already have an owner. Please go back the way you came. Lin Feng said. Humph. Immediately, a great emperor snorted and looked at Lin Feng indifferently. An ant-like thing dares to boast shamelessly here. These great emperors all looked at Lin Feng from the corner of their eyes. They did not put Lin Feng in their eyes at all. In their eyes, Lin Feng was just an ant or a dog. If they wanted to kill Lin Feng, it would be as simple as moving a finger. Lin Feng sneered and said, You keep saying that others are ants, but I think that you are the ants. Just now, I gave you face and let you go back the way you came. However, if you don't want face, I don't mind stepping on you like bugs under my feet and directly crushing you to death. The 7 great emperors entered. Only the white-robed female cultivator did not say anything. Instead, she watched the conflict between Lin Feng and the 6 thearchs from the side. The white-robed female cultivator had long recognized Lin Feng's identity and knew that Lin Feng was definitely not an ordinary person. Therefore, she had been waiting and watching. As for the other 6 thearchs, they naturally did not put Lin Feng, a quasi-emperor cultivator, in their eyes. However, a mere quasi-emperor cultivator, whom they regarded as an ant, was now looking down on them. How could the 6 thearchs tolerate it? The emperor realm cultivator who spoke first looked at Lin Feng indifferently and said, Boy, this seat is a guard under the command of young Master Tian, Wu Ye of the Celestial Clan. Now, this seat orders you to hand over that martial talisman to this seat, then sever one of your arms. Then, this seat will not pursue today's matter with you. This emperor realm expert said these words to Lin Feng from his personal point of view. He did not pursue the matter with Lin Feng. As for whether others would pursue the matter with Lin Feng, it was none of his business. This emperor realm expert's tone was completely unquestionable. He glanced sideways at Lin Feng, treating Lin Feng as an ant. This was a kind of arrogance that emanated from his bones. Lin Feng said indifferently, Heavenly Human Clan's Tianwuya, you want to give the martial talisman to your master and let your master refine it? What a loyal servant! Although the Heavenly Human Clan that Tianwuya belonged to had long since stopped recognizing themselves as humans, but they were still humans in essence, and they also had martial souls. Therefore, Tianwuya could indeed use the martial talisman. When he heard Lin Feng's mockery, he was furious. The corners of this Emperor Realm Expert's mouth twitched violently. Many great emperors saw it as an honor to be able to follow Tianwuya, because Tianwuya was a supreme disciple of the Heavenly Human Clan. Following Tianwuya, his future was limitless. But now that these words came out of Lin Feng's mouth, he who followed Tianwuya had actually become a loyal servant. Of course, to be honest, Lin Feng's words were not wrong. But in the eyes of this Emperor Realm Expert, Lin Feng's words were clearly mocking him. How could this monarch realm cultivator endure such mockery? Brat, since you want to die so badly, then I don't mind fulfilling your wish. The Emperor Realm Expert's voice was cold as he spoke. His dermic powers started to flow within his body. This person began to prepare his attack. The rest of the great emperors looked at this scene indifferently. In their eyes, Lin Feng was no different from a dead man. They were also happy to see Lin Feng be killed. After Lin Feng died, they would then fight for the Holy Fire Toad's corpse. As for the 3 martial talismans, these people planned to give them to Tianwuya as a favor. I never kill a nameless person. Tell me your name, Lin Feng said indifferently. After hearing Lin Feng's words, the Emperor Realm Expert's mouth twitched violently. He was actually looked down upon by Lin Feng again and again. This Emperor Realm Expert's killing intent was monstrous. He couldn't wait to kill Lin Feng immediately. Brat, go to hell. This Emperor Realm Expert took a step forward and then punched towards Lin Feng. This Emperor Realm Expert didn't use any divine ability. With his cultivation base, it would be a joke if he used divine ability to deal with a boundary Emperor Realm cultivator. That brat is dead for sure. The other 5 great emperors looked at Lin Feng indifferently. They didn't think that a boundary Emperor Realm cultivator could resist the attack of an Emperor Realm Expert. Among all the people present, only the white-clothed female cultivator had a little confidence in Lin Feng. However, this confidence was also negligible. After all, Lin Feng was only a boundary Emperor Realm cultivator. A boundary Emperor Realm cultivator wanted to resist the attack of an Emperor Realm cultivator. It was simply daydreaming. Boom. At this moment, the Emperor Realm cultivator's terrifying punch had already arrived and was about to hit Lin Feng. At this moment, even the little confidence the white-clothed female cultivator had in Lin Feng disappeared. Everyone felt that. Chapter 34:10. Just when everyone thought that Lin Feng was dead for sure, Lin Feng attacked. He threw a punch at the opponent. Even in the face of the attack of an Emperor Realm Expert, Lin Feng was still as calm as ever. In the past, the Red World Fairy had cultivated 3,000 types of 3,000 great Daos. It was very likely that she had also refined some powerful Emperor laws. Her combat strength was almost heaven-defying. Now, Lin Feng had cultivated 2,300 types of 3,000 great Daos. Although he was still 700 types of 3,000 great Daos away from the Red World Fairy's 3,000 types of 3,000 great Daos. But in reality, Lin Feng had cultivated enough 3,000 great Daos. One had to know, there were many cultivators. Before becoming an emperor, one only needed a few dozen types of 3,000 great Daos. However, Lin Feng had cultivated so many. In addition, Lin Feng had already refined 9 emperor laws. 10 God Emperor laws. These laws could provide him with power that was so powerful that it made people pale in shock. At that moment, Lin Feng could kill gods and Buddhas if they tried to block his path. Bang! Accompanied by the sound of a violent collision. Everyone saw Lin Feng colliding with the Emperor Realm Expert. Everyone thought that Lin Feng would be instantly killed, but it did not happen. Instead, the Emperor Realm Expert was forced to retreat after colliding with Lin Feng. How is this possible? LV Wenjun was forced to retreat. Is that kid really only at the Quasi-Emperor realm? A series of exclamations suddenly resounded. Everyone's expression was as if they had seen a ghost. They simply couldn't believe their own eyes. The cultivator who was fighting with Lin Feng was called LV Wenjun. She was at the third heaven of the Emperor realm. She had originally followed Tian Wuya into the 9 profound fallen immortal realm. However, after Tian Wuya and the others entered the 9 profound fallen immortal realm, they were attacked by some terrifying creatures in the 9 profound fallen immortal realm. In the end, LV Wenjun and Tian Wuya separated. Later, LV Wenjun joined forces with the other 6 emperors to enter this place. They let everyone know how terrifying LV Wenjun was. LV Wenjun had always been by Tian Wuya's side, so she had gained a lot of benefits over the years. Therefore, LV Wenjun was much stronger than cultivators of the same level. However, such a powerful LV Wenjun was actually no match for a young human cultivator like Lin Feng. It was truly inconceivable. No, this is absolutely impossible. LV Wenjun found it even more unacceptable. He was actually forced back by a young human cultivator in front of everyone. Just now, LV Wenjun cast a sidelong glance at Lin Feng. He did not put Lin Feng in his eyes at all. Looking at it now, it was really ironic. LV Wenjun roared angrily, "Brat, today I will definitely let you die without a burial ground." At this moment, LV Wenjun had completely lost her mind. After following Tian Wuya for such a long time, LV Wenjun felt that she was superior to others. Only he could humiliate others. How could he be humiliated by others? Being repelled by Lin Feng was a great humiliation to LV Wenjun, so no matter what, LV Wenjun had to regain her face. And from LV Wenjun's point of view, only by killing Lin Feng, only then could she regain her face. Whoosh! LV Wenjun quickly rushed towards Lin Feng, and endless holy light gushed out from his body. At this moment, LV Wenjun gave off an incomparably sacred feeling. Myriad divine Tao, billions of living beings, immortal law, destroy all worlds. LV Wenjun's cold voice suddenly rang out. He looked coldly at Lin Feng and said, "Brat, today I will let you have a taste of the supreme divine ability passed down by the celestial race." Celestial race, the most ancient human race. The divine ability passed down by the celestial race would naturally be so powerful that it could not help but shock people. Now, LV Wenjun began to display the divine ability passed down by the celestial race. It was probably taught to this person by Tian Wuya. Heavenly Tao breaks all worlds. Suddenly, LV Wenjun roared. His body turned into eternal holy light and directly slashed towards Lin Feng. At that moment, LV Wenjun seemed to have become the only one in the world, the entire world. It was as if it was about to stop. Around, all the cultivators revealed looks of extreme shock. LV Wenjun's attack was really too powerful. It was indeed worthy of being the supreme divine ability passed down by the celestial race. Can that brat still withstand LV Wenjun's attack? The 5 great emperors could not help but think, because Lin Feng's battle strength was strong enough. Therefore, Even though LV Wenjun had displayed extremely terrifying battle strength now, everyone was not sure if LV Wenjun could defeat Lin Feng. The female cultivator in white narrowed her eyes at Lin Feng as if she wanted to see through Lin Feng. LV Wenjun's attack was about to hit Lin Feng. At this moment, Lin Feng displayed an unparalleled divine ability. With a thought, flowers bloomed, and the sovereign descended. It was the supreme inheritance that originated from the mysterious demon lord. This was definitely one of the most terrifying techniques since ancient times. After Lin Feng displayed this divine ability, he seemed to have turned into an invincible demon lord. With a look, it was as if he could destroy the world in all directions. Lin Feng directly swept his fist towards the holy light that LV Wenjun had transformed into. Bang! Accompanied by a violent collision sound, Lin Feng and LV Wenjun collided once again. Everyone saw that Lin Feng's punch directly shattered the endless holy light. LV Wenjun was beaten back to his original form. Oh my God! Has the celestial race's inheritance been destroyed by that brat? The 5 great emperors who were watching the battle could not help but be shocked. They could not believe their eyes. Seeing Lin Feng's divine ability, the woman in white was also very shocked. Lin Feng's attack did not end there. Lin Feng was naturally very clear about the logic of beating a drowning dog. Take his life while he was sick. Therefore, after LV Wenjun's divine ability was broken by Lin Feng followed like a shadow and quickly arrived beside LV Wenjun. Then, his fist continued to bombard LV Wenjun. Lin Feng's tyrannical punch directly swept across LV Wenjun's body. Crack! Crack! The sound of bones cracking could be heard. Countless bones in LV Wenjun's body were broken by Lin Feng's punch. Puff! Puff! LV Wenjun vomited large mouthfuls of blood. His face was as pale as paper. He had already suffered internal injuries from Lin Feng's attack. His combat strength plummeted. Is this your strength? You dare to jump around in front of me. With this little strength, you really don't know what death is. Lin Feng stepped on the 7 stars and punched towards LV Wenjun again. LV Wenjun felt the aura of death enveloping his body. He felt a deep killing intent from Lin Feng. LV Wenjun knew Lin Feng really wanted to kill him. It was not as simple as just saying, "My master is young Master Tian Wuya of the celestial race. If you dare to kill me, you are dead meat." LV Wenjun used Tian Wuya to threaten Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng did not care about LV Wenjun's threat. Chapter 34:11. I'll fight it out with you. Seeing that Lin Feng had no intention of letting him go, LV Wenjun's eyes flashed with a ferocious light. No matter what, LV Wenjun was also an emperor-level expert. Although he had been injured by Lin Feng, his combat strength was still very strong. LV Wenjun's eyes were filled with dense killing intent. At this moment, his body began to burn. LV Wenjun seemed to have turned into a flaming man. He was burning his life source to increase his combat strength. However, even though LV Wenjun had burned his life source to increase his combat strength, he was still no match for Lin Feng. Lin Feng seemed to have turned into an immortal god fiend. He was invincible. No matter who came to fight him, they were destined to die. Lin Feng still punched at LV Wenjun. Bang! The 2 sides collided again. This time, Lin Feng showed his might. LV Wenjun's body exploded. His body and soul were destroyed on the spot. Too cruel! The other 5 great emperors couldn't help but gasp. The combat strength Lin Feng displayed had deeply shocked them. The 5 great emperors' cultivation was on par with LV Wenjun's. If there was anyone who could defeat LV Wenjun, no one dared to say such a thing. However, LV Wenjun was killed by Lin Feng. so easily. Why aren't you scramming? Do you want to end up like LV, Wenjun? Lin Feng couldn't help but say coldly. The 5 great emperors were naturally furious when they were reprimanded by a young cultivator like Lin Feng. The 5 of them joined forces. They weren't necessarily afraid of Lin Feng. However, they weren't willing to fight to the death with Lin Feng. Even if they killed Lin Feng, they felt that they would probably lose a few people on their side. Humph! The 5 great emperors couldn't help but snort coldly and quickly leave. Lin Feng looked at the woman in white and said indifferently, "Fairy, why aren't you leaving?" The woman in white said, "You're not a simple person. I underestimated you before." Lin Feng smiled faintly and didn't say much. He knew that the female cultivator was not simple. Her cultivation was unfathomable. Furthermore, her origins were extremely mysterious. Previously, she had been surrounded by so many black fog creatures, yet she was still able to escape unscathed. From this, one could tell just how astonishing this woman's methods were. Lin Feng knew that this woman had stayed behind because she had something to tell him. This made Lin Feng very curious. He didn't know what this woman wanted to say to him. The female cultivator continued, "Perhaps we can cooperate once." Cooperation? Lin Feng looked at the female cultivator in surprise and asked, "What kind of cooperation do you want?" "There might be something shocking in the Jioshuan fallen immortal realm." The woman in white said, "Divine scepter?" Lin Feng couldn't help but ask. He thought of the divine scepter from before. It was indeed an extremely extraordinary treasure. Of course not. Perhaps it's even more extraordinary than the divine scepter. It's somewhere in the Jioshuan fallen immortal realm. That place is too dangerous. If I enter it with you, we can look out for each other." The woman in white said. Lin Feng said curiously, "I'm really curious. What exactly is this thing you're talking about? Once you see it, you'll know. It's even more amazing than you can imagine." The woman in white said. Lin Feng asked, "What's your name?" The woman in white couldn't help but be taken aback. She had just been discussing cooperation with Lin Feng. Now, Lin Feng was asking her for her name. Wasn't his train of thought jumping a little too quickly? "Is that important?" the woman in white asked. Lin Feng said, "I'm just curious." The woman in white said, "Lu Ruoxin. Lu Ruoxin? That's your name?" Lin Feng asked. "Yes." The woman in white replied. "You're beautiful. Your name is beautiful too." Lin Feng said, "Don't say such words to deceive ordinary girls in front of me." The woman in white said. Lin Feng said, "I'm not trying to deceive you. I'm just speaking the truth. Because you're really beautiful." The woman in white didn't answer Lin Feng's question. Lin Feng didn't feel awkward. He continued asking, "I heard that you're related to the undying realm. I wonder if the rumors are true?" "There are many things that are both true and false. Perhaps we don't need to care about whether they're true or false at times." The woman in white said, "That's very reasonable." Lin Feng nodded and said, "I can cooperate with you, but that'll have to wait until I've refined the martial talisman. Therefore, I'll have to trouble you to stand guard outside for me for now. If anyone dares to disturb my cultivation, I'll have to trouble you to chase them out." After hearing Lin Feng's words, Lu Ruoxin couldn't help but roll her eyes. She actually became Lin Feng's guard, and Lin Feng actually had the nerve to make such a request. Truly, shameless people were invincible. "You'd better hurry up. Don't waste everyone's time," Lu Ruoxin said angrily. Then she flew outside without looking back. Lin Feng looked at the holy flame toad. He flew toward the holy flame toad. However, the holy flame toad emitted an extremely terrifying aura that suppressed Lin Feng. Lin Feng used his haki to resist the terrifying aura emitted by the Holy Flame Toad. Finally, he approached the Holy Flame Toad. At this moment, the Holy Flame Toad's body was burning. A powerful existence, like the Holy Flame Toad, wouldn't allow others to touch its body. Therefore, it would leave a backup plan. When others were about to touch its body would self-destruct. Such a situation. It wasn't the first time Lin Feng saw it. When the Holy Flame Toad's body was completely burned to ashes, only two things were left. The first thing was the third fire demon talisman. As for the second item, it was a piece of bronze fragment. After seeing the bronze fragment, Lin Feng couldn't help showing a surprised expression. He temporarily put away the 3 fire demon talismans. Then, Lin Feng picked up the bronze fragment. He carefully studied the bronze fragment. Lin Feng found that the surface of the bronze shard was actually covered with dense patterns. When Lin Feng tried to sense the bronze fragment with his divine thought, Lin Feng suddenly felt an extremely hot aura enveloping his body. He felt that his soul was about to be pulled into a mysterious world. As for that mysterious world, it was pitch black, in the depths of the endless darkness. Instead, it was occupied by a ball of black flames. Heaven fire! Lin Feng was surprised. His divine thought returned to his body. Lin Feng looked at the bronze fragment in surprise. If he didn't guess wrong, the whereabouts of the heaven fire that the Holy Flame Toad couldn't refine. Chapter 34:12. In the past, the Holy Flame Toad was so powerful that it was only one step away from entering the immortal realm. However, even such a powerful Holy Flame Toad had suffered a backlash from the heavenly fire. From this, one could see how terrifying the heavenly fire was. However, Lin Feng guessed that although the Holy Flame Toad had suffered a backlash, it hadn't died immediately. Therefore, the Holy Flame Toad must have engaged in an intense battle with the heavenly fire. Therefore, Lin Feng felt that the heavenly fire's fire spirit had most likely been killed by the Holy Flame Toad. Perhaps only the heavenly fire's origin was left. If that was the case, it couldn't be better. If only the heavenly fire's origin was left, it would be much easier for Lin Feng to refine it. If the heavenly fire's fire spirit was still there, it would be somewhat troublesome. Of course, Lin Feng was powerful and daring. Even if the heavenly fire's fire spirit was still there, it might not be impossible to deal with it. After all, in the battle back then, even if the heavenly fire's fire spirit wasn't killed by the Holy Flame Toad, it would have been severely injured. Existences like the heavenly fire's fire spirit were different from cultivators. Cultivators recovered faster from injuries. However, the heavenly fire's fire spirit was born from heaven and earth. Moreover, it had been nurtured for countless years before it was finally born. Therefore, once the heavenly fire's fire spirit was injured, it would be extremely difficult for it to recover. This heavenly fire is a black heavenly fire, demon lord, among the 72 types of heavenly fire. Is there such a black heavenly fire? Lin Feng transmitted his voice to the demon lord, asking the demon lord to sense the bronze fragment. The demon lord was very knowledgeable, so he might have heard of it. The demon lord's divine sense invaded the bronze fragment. Then the demon lord pondered for a moment and said, "A completely black heavenly fire that even evolved into a black space. Could this heavenly fire be the 5th-ranked extreme demonic fire? Extreme demonic fire? What's so special about this heavenly fire?" Lin Feng couldn't help but ask curiously. A heavenly fire that could rank so high was definitely extraordinary. However, Lin Feng didn't know anything about this extreme demonic fire. He didn't understand it. The demon lord said This is a kind of heavenly fire born from the power of extreme yin. Rumor has it that this kind of heavenly flame has killed many sentient life forms. Hearing this, Lin Feng couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. What a tyrannical ability this extreme yin devil fire had. It had actually refined quite a few sentient life forms to death. It seemed like they had their heyday in the past. Has no one ever subdued the extreme yin devil fire before? Lin Feng asked. The demon lord shook his head and said, the extreme yin demonic flame was refined by Chi-Yu in the past. Lin Feng couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Chi-Yu, this was an illustrious existence. It was a terrifying being that made the heavens and earth lose their color and the sun and moon lose their light. Now, Chi-Yu's evil deeds back then were being spread throughout the universe. They said that it was Chi-Yu who brought chaos to the world. Later, the Yellow Emperor and the Flame Emperor joined forces to defeat Chi-Yu. In the end, Chi-Yu fell. Only then did the chaos subside. Whether or not this rumor was true, Lin Feng didn't know yet. However, from the various rumors, it seemed that the evaluation of Chi-Yu wasn't very high. Of course, no one could deny Chi-Yu's strength. He was definitely an existence that stood at the pinnacle of cultivation. Even the Yellow Emperor and the Flame Emperor, the ancestors of the human race, had to join forces to contend against Chi-Yu. From this point, one could see how powerful Chi-Yu had been back then. Lin Feng was so shocked that Chi-Yu had refined this kind of skyfire. If it were someone else who had refined it, Lin Feng might not have been so shocked. I heard that Chi-Yu was enraged when he saw the extreme yin demonic fire wreaking havoc in the world. Many sentient life forms were killed by the extreme yin demonic fire. He was killed by the extreme yin demonic fire himself. After that, Chi-Yu refined the extreme yin demonic fire. I guess after Chi-Yu's death, the extreme yin demonic fire gave birth to a new fire spirit. When the holy flame toad refined the extreme yin demonic fire, it should have faced the fire spirit that was born from the extreme yin demonic fire. The demon lord said, these skyfires were extremely special. The fire spirit was equivalent to the soul of the skyfire. After the fire spirit was destroyed, the skyfire could still give birth to a new fire spirit after a long time. Under normal circumstances, a heavenly fire with a fire spirit was many times stronger than a heavenly fire without a fire spirit. Isn't this Chi-Yu an evil demon? Shouldn't he clap his hands and cheer when he saw the extreme yin devil fire killing the innocent? Why would he take the initiative to destroy the extreme yin devil fire? Lin Feng said in surprise. Yao Jun said, it's hard to say who's right and who's wrong for what happened countless years ago. Chi-Yu may have indeed fought with Yellow Emperor and Yen Emperor, but the later generations have no way of knowing the specifics. It's only the later generations who painted Chi-Yu as an unpardonable evil demon, not the people of that era. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. He felt that the demon lord's words had a hidden meaning. Moreover, recently, the demon lord gave Lin Feng a more and more mysterious feeling. It was as if there were no secrets in the world that the demon lord didn't know. Lin Feng still remembered that the demon lord was one of the 72 realm lords of the Undying Realm. He belonged to the ancient era, but the existence of the ancient era shouldn't know much about the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors Chi-Yu's era. But the demon lord, why did he know so much? And it seemed to be reminding him of something intentionally or unintentionally. Lin Feng suppressed the doubts in his heart. The demon lord wouldn't say. If he asked, the demon lord still wouldn't say. This point, Lin Feng was very clear. Therefore, Lin Feng simply didn't ask the demon lord about those things. Lin Feng put away the bronze fragment that recorded the clues of the extreme yin devil fire. Then, Lin Feng took out 3 fire demon talismans. The 3 fire demon talismans floated in the air. Then, gradually, they fused together. Each of the 3 fire demon talismans emitted violent fluctuations. In the end, the 3 fire demon talismans began to gradually fuse together. Lin Feng's face revealed a look of joy. 2 hours later, the 3 fire demon talismans were successfully fused, and Lin Feng grabbed the fused fire demon talisman. Then, he began to circulate the immemorial dragonesque elephant art to absorb the energy in the fire demon talisman. The energy in the fire demon talisman was continuously absorbed by Lin Feng. Then, all the energy merged into Lin Feng's devouring martial spirit. A loud, rumbling sound could be heard. In Lin Feng's dantian, the 5 devouring martial spirits began to circulate on their own. Every time it circulated, it would shake out a power that could destroy the heavens and the earth. This was a martial spirit that originated from the Sovereign Emperor clan. The 5 devouring martial spirits distorted the void and began to fuse together. After the 5 devouring martial spirits fused together, they absorbed the energy in the fire demon talisman even more crazily. Chapter 34:13. These mysterious figures all had extraordinary origins. They were all the ancestors of the Sovereign Emperor clan. One of them was shrouded in endless darkness, creating the heaven-devouring demonic art. That existence, it was the heaven-devouring demonic emperor of the Sovereign Emperor clan. That existence stood tall in the sky. He had an imposing aura, and a single look from him seemed capable of collapsing 100,000 worlds. That existence, he was the ancestor of the Sovereign Emperor clan, who had punched through the undying realm. That existence stood in the void, as though he had transformed into an eternal sovereign. Even the gods and immortals had to bow down to him. That existence was the master of gods. He was the first person of the post-Xiantian life form era to create a new cultivation system. One ancient existence after another appeared. They stood in the black hole and looked at Lin Feng. They were all looking at him with eager eyes. They were all looking at him with deep emotions. When Lin Feng saw them, tears welled up in his eyes. These were all his ancestors. At this moment, a woman walked out from the depths of the black hole. She was so beautiful. She looked at Lin Feng with a gentle gaze. She seemed to be saying to Lin Feng, "Feng, my child, you've suffered all these years." She was Lin Feng's mother. Finally, even the Sovereign Emperor clan's first primogenitor appeared. The first ancestor of the great imperial clan was standing in the black hole, looking at Lin Feng encouragingly. Lin Feng was the continuation of their bloodline. He was the hope of the Sovereign Emperor clan's future. Vaguely, Lin Feng seemed to hear a voice from his bloodline. "No matter how difficult it is, don't give up. You must persevere." When that voice resonated in the atmosphere, Lin Feng's absorbing spirit started to change again. This time, Lin Feng felt something. His devouring martial soul began to split. Rumble! Rumble! A violent sound echoed through the clouds. Lin Feng's devouring martial soul split into a new devouring martial soul. This was Lin Feng's 6th devouring martial soul. However, after the 6th devouring martial spirit was formed, there was no more 7th devouring martial spirit. Perhaps it was because the fire demon talisman was ranked relatively low among the martial talismans. Therefore, it was impossible for Lin Feng's martial soul to continue splitting. Or perhaps it was because Lin Feng's martial soul was too powerful. Therefore, the fire devil talisman could only help Lin Feng split his martial soul once. However, even if it was only the devouring martial spirit, it would still be very powerful. Lin Feng was already very satisfied. After finishing his cultivation, Lin Feng couldn't help but let out a long sigh. He quickly got up and flew outside. Lu Ruoxin was guarding the entrance out of boredom. Seeing Lin Feng fly over, he said, "Let's go. We've already been delayed for a long time. We need to hurry." Lin Feng nodded and quickly flew outside with Lu Ruoxin. Lu Ruoxin was indeed a top beauty. Up close, her beauty was truly indescribable. It was enough to compete with 100 flowers. She was definitely a rare beauty. In addition to her powerful cultivation, Lu Ruoxin was definitely a goddess among goddesses. However, this goddess had an ice-cold look on her face, as if she didn't want anyone to get close to her. Even though Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin had reached an agreement to cooperate. However, Lu Ruoxin still had an ice-cold look on her face when facing Lin Feng. Lin Feng was already used to it. When they left, they were attacked by the stone bats. Fortunately, the two of them had extraordinary means, and they managed to shake off the stone bats that were chasing after them. The stone bats seemed to be confined in the cave, and they couldn't get too far away from the cave with the mural. "Did you see the mural?" Lin Feng asked. "What? What are you trying to say?" Lu Ruoxin said coldly. She didn't give Lin Feng any face. Lin Feng said, "I suddenly have a feeling that the stone pagoda on the mural seems to be in the 9 profound, fallen immortal domain." "Why do you say that?" Lu Ruoxin couldn't help but ask doubtfully. She didn't know where Lin Feng got this feeling from. Lin Feng said, "Intuition." Lu Ruoxin couldn't help but roll her eyes. She said, "I have a feeling that someone will be able to live forever in the future." "Oh." Lin Feng looked at Lu Ruoxin in surprise and asked, "Who do you think will be able to live forever?" "Myself," Lu Ruoxin said. Lin Feng pursed his lips. Lu Ruoxin said in all seriousness, "A woman's sixth sense is usually very strong." Lu Ruoxin said. Lin Feng could only smile bitterly. Clearly, Lu Ruoxin was using her words to support Lin Feng's earlier words. However, Lin Feng hadn't lied to Lu Ruoxin. He really did have a feeling. The stone pagoda was in the 9 profound, fallen, immortal domain, but Lin Feng didn't know why he had such a feeling. It was a very strange feeling. Lu Ruoxin clearly didn't believe Lin Feng's intuition. Lin Feng didn't say anything else. After the two of them flew out of the cave, they flew toward the depths of the 9 profound, fallen immortal domain. They were very careful because the 9 profound, fallen immortal domain was extremely dangerous. The slightest carelessness could lead to death, so they had to be very careful. Lin Feng didn't want to die young. The 9 profound, fallen immortal domain was filled with continuous mountain ranges. When the two of them arrived at the 70th mountain, they still hadn't reached the deepest part of the 9 profound, fallen, immortal domain, a mountain range. It stretched for more than 10 miles or even dozens of miles. No one knew how far the 9 profound, fallen, immortal domain extended. The 9 profound, fallen, immortal domain was a little too big. When they arrived at the 30th mountain, Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin saw several cultivators in the distance. They were all in the Great Emperor realm, and their strength was unfathomable. Since the 9 profound, fallen immortal domain was an extremely dangerous place, most people would cross the mountains on foot instead of flying. If they flew in the air, they would be courting death. First of all, if they flew in the air, they would become the target of those terrifying creatures in the 9 profound, fallen, immortal domain. Second of all, there were terrifying restrictions everywhere in the 9 profound, fallen, immortal domain, and the restrictions in the air were especially powerful. If they flew in the air, they would directly face the attacks of those restrictions. It would be extremely dangerous. Just as the cultivators in front of them were about to cross the 30th mountain and head to the 31st mountain, suddenly, a streak of white light flashed through the forest. Its speed was simply too fast. It was so fast that Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin couldn't see what it was. The great Emperor realm cultivators in front of them didn't have any reaction and disappeared without a trace. It's a ferocious beast. It swallowed several great emperors. Lin Feng's voice trembled slightly. Those were several great Emperor realm experts. They didn't even have time to react before they were swallowed by the white ferocious beast. It was unbelievable. Chapter 34:14. Let's leave quickly, Lin Feng said with a solemn expression. He beckoned Lu Ruoxin to leave this place as quickly as possible. That white light was too terrifying. If it were to attack the two of them, they would not be able to resist it. The speed of the attack was truly shocking. The two of them quickly left the area. Fortunately, the terrifying creature did not appear. Lin Feng said, "The 9 profound fallen immortal domain is extremely dangerous. The creatures here are exceptionally terrifying. Moreover, the deeper you go, the stronger the creatures will be. There might even be a king realm existence here." Lu Ruoxin nodded. She agreed with Lin Feng's words. A terrifying king realm existence had definitely appeared in the 9 profound fallen immortal domain. The owner of the white light earlier might be such a creature. They did not know what it was, but it was definitely powerful enough to make one's soul tremble. If anyone were to encounter such a creature, they probably wouldn't dare to say that they would be able to escape with their lives from that creature's attack. After changing their route, the two of them crossed the 30th mountain and continued toward the 31st mountain. At the 31st mountain, they saw a dozen great emperors fighting a firebird. Those great emperors seemed to have obtained something precious from the cave abode guarded by the firebird. The firebird was furious. It launched a frenzied attack on the group of great emperors. In the end, 5 of the great emperors were killed. The other 7, the remaining 7 escaped with injuries. The firebird shrieked in anger, its voice piercing to the ears. Those cultivators had thoroughly infuriated the firebird. However, the firebird seemed to be unable to leave the 31st mountain. Therefore, it could not chase after those cultivators who escaped. This allowed those people to escape. Otherwise, those people would have died under the attack of the firebird. In the end, the firebird returned to the cave abode. At this moment, Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin came out from their hiding place. "This place is really dangerous." Lin Feng could not help but sigh. If it's not dangerous, would it still be called the Life Forbidden Zone? Lu Ruoxin pouted. Lin Feng realized that Lu Ruoxin liked to tease him for no reason. However, a good man would not fight with a woman. As such, Lin Feng just smiled and didn't argue with Lu Ruoxin. The two of them also encountered several dangers along the way. Terrifying, ferocious beasts attacked them. Fortunately, Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin had extraordinary means. They managed to avoid the dangers many times. In the end, they arrived at the 49th mountain peak. When they arrived, it was already nighttime. The 9 mysterious fallen immortal domain was even more dangerous at night. Many terrifying creatures liked to move around at night. 7 stars piercing sun. He pointed at the mountain. 9 was the extreme number. Avoid the 9th prince. Lu Ruoxin could not help but ask. Lin Feng said, "In that case, the place that Fairy spoke of should be within the 49th mountain." Lu Ruoxin said, "That's right. It is indeed on this mountain. However, the only problem now is the 49th mountain. How do we determine where the entrance is?" "You have a token?" "If there's a token, it won't be difficult to confirm," Lin Feng said. Lu Ruoxin's eyes lit up when she heard that. She said, "Of course there is a token, but how can we be sure?" Lu Ruoxin took out an item as she said that. Lin Feng looked at it carefully and found that it was a stone pendant. Lin Feng took the stone pendant and said, Let's wait and see. Celestial being. Next, Lin Feng looked at the stone pendant. He immediately found out. There was a dragon and a phoenix carved on the front of the stone pendant. There were 2 words written on the back. Ahuang. Ahuang. This seems to be a name. Could it be that an old friend is already so romantic? He actually carved the name of his lover on the stone pendant? Lin Feng said in surprise. Ahuang. The demon lord's expression froze when he saw the stone pendant. Then he shook his head slightly and sighed. He could not help but reveal a thoughtful look in his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. Lu Ruoxin said, the ancients naturally knew how to talk about love. Lin Feng began to draw the 8 trigrams. He wanted to use the innate 8 trigrams to deduce the location of the place that Lu Ruoxin mentioned. The stone pendant was the primer. Lin Feng placed the stone pendant in the center of the 8 trigrams. He began to deduce. Innate 8 trigrams, Lu Ruoxin said in surprise. Lin Feng glanced at Lu Ruoxin and said, Fairy, you're really experienced and knowledgeable. With just one look, you can tell that I'm using the innate 8 trigrams technique. I'm really impressed. Lu Ruoxin said, this innate 8 trigrams technique is mysterious and unpredictable. I've seen people using it before, but it's far from being as exquisite as yours. It seems that you've obtained a more complete innate 8 trigrams inheritance. The amount of information that Lu Ruoxin revealed was no small matter. It seemed that someone else had obtained Fushi's inheritance. However, the other party didn't seem to have obtained a lot of inheritance. It should only be a part of it. Lin Feng didn't say much and continued to deduce. In the end, Lin Feng deduced a result. He looked in the northwest direction and then pointed in that direction and said, it should be in this direction, but I'm not sure where it is. Let's go and take a look. Lu Ruoxin said. Lin Feng nodded and handed the stone pendant with the words Ahuang written on it to Lu Ruoxin. Lu Ruoxin held the stone pendant in her hand and walked towards the northwest with Lin Feng. Inside the demon bead, on the lonely grave, the demon lord's gaze was a little absent-minded. Ahuang, Ahuang, Ahuang. He kept muttering Ahuang's name. The demon lord seemed to know this woman called Ahuang. His expression became a little sad. Lin Feng didn't know the change in the demon lord's expression inside the demon bead. He and Lu Ruoxin walked towards the northwest direction. The mountains were continuous. The 2 of them felt a terrifying aura spreading over. Not good. Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed. He grabbed Lu Ruoxin and used the heaven patching technique. He borrowed another chance from the heavens. Swish! Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin disappeared without a trace. At the same time as they disappeared, a white light suddenly appeared and flashed. It disappeared instantly. It's that terrifying existence. Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin's expressions became extremely ugly. Fortunately, Lin Feng's heaven patching technique was extraordinary. It saved Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin's lives. Chapter 34:15. It hasn't left yet, Lin Feng said with a solemn expression. What? It hasn't left yet? Lu Ruoxin's expression changed slightly. She didn't sense that terrifying existence. Therefore, Lu Ruoxin thought that the terrifying existence had left. However, Lin Feng said that the terrifying existence hadn't left yet. Lu Ruoxin had seen Lin Feng's various extraordinary abilities. Therefore, she didn't doubt Lin Feng's words. Lin Feng nodded and said, it should be watching us from a dark place. Unfortunately, I can't determine where it is hiding. That existence was simply too terrifying. With Lin Feng's ability, he couldn't determine the hiding location of that terrifying existence. It had to be said that the terrifying existence might have completely exceeded Lin Feng's imagination. That kind of existence. How powerful was its combat power? It was inestimable and unimaginable. Now, Lin Feng was facing a formidable enemy. The unknown was the most terrifying. As for the existence hidden in the dark, Lin Feng didn't know. It was the same for Lu Ruoxin. Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin both knew that they were in trouble. It was definitely a disaster to be targeted by that terrifying existence. However, until now, the two of them hadn't been able to think of a way to solve the crisis in front of them. Lin Feng had already performed the heaven patching technique. There was still the great death substitution technique left. In other words, he and Lu Ruoxin still had a chance to avoid death. Suddenly, Lin Feng felt that something was wrong. It was a kind of feeling from the bloodline, just like the special ability of the sudden inspiration. He could sense the arrival of danger. Sometimes it was hard to explain with words why he had such a strong feeling. However, such a strong premonition was very important in many cases. It was a feeling of death. It was suffocating. Lin Feng grabbed Lu Ruoxin. This time, he performed the great death substitution technique. Then he and Lu Ruoxin disappeared from where they were. This time, his disappearance was also very timely. The moment Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin disappeared, the white light reappeared. However, he missed. Lin Feng could feel the anger in the air. After missing twice in a row, the terrifying existence became extremely angry. The cliff on the right. The entrance should be there. At this moment, Lu Ruoxin suddenly spoke. She seemed to have sensed the location of the entrance to that mysterious place. Hearing this, Lin Feng pushed his speed to the limit. He grabbed Lu Ruoxin's jade-like hand and quickly dashed to the right. Lu Ruoxin's hand was very soft, but now was not the time to be distracted. The most important thing now was to escape. Whoosh! Suddenly, a mass of destructive energy descended from the sky and enveloped Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin. That ball of destructive energy should be the attack of that terrifying existence hiding in the dark. Feeling the power contained in the destructive energy, Lin Feng's face turned pale with fright. That ball of destructive energy was too terrifying. Even if it was an attack from an emperor or even an immortal, Lin Feng would not have any doubts. Such an attack was so powerful that it would make one turn pale with fright. However, Lu Ruoxin summoned 2 miniature puppets at this time. The 2 miniature puppets quickly grew bigger. They turned into Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin, respectively. That was the puppet technique, and it was an extremely advanced puppet technique. The 2 miniature puppets turned into Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin and quickly flew toward that ball of destructive energy. Something shocking happened at this time. That ball of destructive energy, it was attracted by the 2 miniature puppets turned into Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin. Then, the 2 balls of destructive energy directly bombarded the 2 miniature puppets turned into Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin. After seeing that, Lin Feng's face revealed an extremely shocked expression. Lu Ruoxin's puppet technique was really amazing. She could even take the initiative to attract the attack. It was Lin Feng's first time seeing such a puppet technique. Among all the puppet techniques, Lu Ruoxin's puppet technique could be considered the most powerful one. Lu Ruoxin's puppet technique helped Lin Feng and her to avoid a disaster. Lin Feng quickly rushed to the cliff that Lu Ruoxin mentioned. "It's down there," Lu Ruoxin said. Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin quickly flew down, after flying for about 100 meters. Then they saw a cave. Then both of their eyes suddenly lit up. Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin quickly entered the cave. "It's here," Lu Ruoxin said. The reason why they could confirm that it was this place was because Lu Ruoxin's stone pendant was emitting waves of energy. The stone pendant was equivalent to a token. Now, the token was emitting waves. It meant that the two of them had arrived at their destination. Is Empress Huang buried here? Inside the demon bead, the demon lord couldn't help but murmur. Lin Feng didn't know what had happened in the demonic bead. If he knew, Lin Feng would definitely be suspicious. Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin were looking outside from time to time because they were worried that the terrifying creature would chase after them. However, what made the two of them heave a sigh of relief was that the terrifying existence did not appear. Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin then walked into the depths of the cave. The cave was very long. After walking for an hour, a huge stone door appeared in front of them. The stone door blocked Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin's path. The stone door was densely covered with runes. Those runes were extremely complicated. Even though countless years had passed, those runes were still very powerful. However, those runes were still extremely powerful, and the fluctuations they emitted were extremely terrifying. Lin Feng studied the stone door for a while. After spending an entire day, he finally cracked the seal on the stone door. After the seal on the stone door was cracked, Lin Feng pushed open the stone door. A rotten smell gushed out from the stone door. That smell was nauseating. It was unknown how many years it had been since someone had entered this place. That was why the rotten smell was emitting. Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin entered the stone door and saw what was inside. Inside the stone door was an extremely huge cave dwelling. The cave dwelling seemed to be divided into several layers. Many jade scrolls were placed in the first layer. It was unknown what those jade scrolls contained. Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin quickly walked over. Lin Feng then picked up a scroll. However, he found that the scroll was already damaged. It had been too long, and the scroll couldn't be preserved. Lin Feng then picked up a jade scroll. Chapter 34:16. The content recorded in the jade tube shocked Lin Feng greatly, because what was recorded in the jade tube was actually an extremely terrifying supernatural power. This supernatural power was called Qiyu God-slaying art. Qiyu, one of the most terrifying existences since ancient times. His strength was simply unimaginable. He was definitely an earth-shattering figure. The demon Lord once told him before, the rumors about Qiyu in the outside world might not be true. Many things that happened countless years ago were destined to become the past and history, and now various interpretations of Qiyu. In fact, they were all compiled by the later generations. Therefore, Qiyu was not necessarily an unpardonable evil demon. Lin Feng knew the meaning of the demon lord's words. There was a deeper meaning hidden in the demon lord's words. But these were destined not to be what Lin Feng could understand at the moment. Now, Qiyu's inheritance actually appeared here. Lin Feng was greatly shocked. The owner of this place seemed to be called a Huang. Could it be that a Huang had something to do with Qiyu? If she had nothing to do with Qiyu, why would a Huang have Qiyu's inheritance here? Lin Feng suddenly thought of the mysterious stone pendant he saw from Lu Ruoxin. Could it be that the mysterious stone pendant was actually given to a Huang by Qiyu? Lin Feng had always been a person with a wild imagination. Therefore, at this moment, he thought of many possibilities. Were Qiyu and a Huang a pair of lovers in the past? Lin Feng was puzzled. He wondered if he could find some answers here. There were too many secrets in the world. Lin Feng was not interested in exploring many secrets. But for a terrifying existence like Qiyu, Lin Feng was still very interested in learning more. After all, Qiyu was a terrifying existence who could fight against the Yellow Emperor and the Yen Emperor when they joined forces. This Chiyu god-slaying art was definitely an extremely powerful and terrifying supernatural power. If he could cultivate it successfully, it would be heaven-defying. Lin Feng continued to check the other scrolls and jade tubes. He found almost all the scrolls had been destroyed. Time was enough to destroy everything. Time was the most terrifying power. Even those jade tubes. Only a very small number of jade cylinders were completely preserved. Many jade tubes were also destroyed by the power of time. However, the contents of those preserved jade tubes were extremely extraordinary. Lin Feng even saw the method to go to the demon realm in a jade tube, as the top world among the 3,000 worlds. The demon realm was a mysterious and powerful world. That place, it was ruled by the demon race. That place had the most powerful demon race forces and their bloodline. Apart from that, Lin Feng also saw some prescriptions and extremely powerful deployment spells. The contents of these preserved jade cylinders were varied, but the contents were all extraordinary. Lu Ruoxin Feng's time. Apparently, Lu Ruoxin had also discovered how shocking the information recorded in the jade tube was. Lin Feng was pleasantly surprised. A jade tube actually recorded a set of 3,000 great Daos. This 3,000 great Dao was called the Great Dark Night Art. It was a very extraordinary 3,000 great Dao. Once it was used, day would turn into night in an extremely short period of time. And the cultivator who used the Great Darkness Art could hide in the dark night. They could become part of the night. It was an unimaginable ability. Of course, this was not the only ability that this divine ability gave the cultivator. There were many other abilities. For example, in the dark night, one's combat strength would increase explosively. These abilities would be obtained after the cultivator successfully cultivated the Great Darkness Art. Lin Feng had never cultivated the Great Darkness Art before. Lin Feng was very happy to be able to obtain this Great Darkness Art. Lin Feng continued to search for other jade tubes. He felt that he might be able to find more of the Great Darkness Art. What Lin Feng wanted the most right now was not those powerful immortal arts, but rather some even more powerful divine abilities. Lin Feng wanted the Great Darkness Art. In the end, Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin looked through all the jade tubes. Most of the jade tubes had been destroyed. Therefore, what was recorded in those jade tubes was destined to be a secret to Lin Feng and the others. However, Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin found enough shocking things in the jade tubes that could be checked. They found 245 types of the Great Darkness Art. Unfortunately, Lin Feng had already studied most of the 3,000 Great Tao skills. There were only 100 types of the Great Darkness Art that Lin Feng had never cultivated. However, this already made Lin Feng very excited. He had already cultivated 2,300 types of the Great Darkness Art. Now, adding the 100 types of the Great Darkness Art that he had never cultivated before. Lin Feng had a total of 2,400 types of the Great Darkness Art. Lin Feng thought, perhaps he could find 3,000 types of the Great Darkness Art before he became an emperor. Originally, he didn't even dare to dream about this. But it was different now. Lin Feng had already obtained 2,400 types of the Great Darkness Art. He was close to collecting all 3,000 types of the Great Darkness Art. He was only one step away. Therefore, for Lin Feng, now, collecting all 3,000 types of the Great Darkness Art didn't seem to be an impossible task. Apart from these 3,000 types of Great Darkness Art, Lin Feng liked the Chiyu God slaying art the most. This was the supreme ability passed down by Chiyu. If he could cultivate it successfully, it would definitely become a trump card. At the critical moment, it might be able to reverse the situation. Of course, Lin Feng also liked the dozen or so powerful killing arrays. Those killing arrays, they would definitely play a key role in the future, especially for a spirit array master like Lin Feng. Such a killing array, it could become a trump card. Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin made a copy of all the content provided. Then, the two of them each had a copy. The two of them collected the items. Then, they continued to search in the first cave. They couldn't find anything else. The two of them walked towards the depths of the cave. When they arrived at the second cave, Lin Feng saw a stone statue placed in the middle of the cave. This stone statue was a woman. This woman was extremely beautiful. It could still be vaguely seen. This woman was wearing a royal robe. This robe indicated the woman's extraordinary identity. A Huang. Lin Feng instantly thought of this name. It was the name on Lu Ruoxin's stone pendant. Emperor. It was an honorific. It represented supreme power. This woman was called a Huang. Could it be that countless years ago, was she a female Saint Emperor? Lin Feng couldn't help but be extremely shocked when he thought of this possibility. An empress. She was definitely an invincible existence. What happened to this empress in the past? That stone pendant. Chapter 34:17. A Huang. A Huang. Inside the demonic orb, Demon Lord looked at a Huang with sadness in his eyes. He was muttering a Huang's name. However, a Huang was destined not to hear the Demon Lord's call. Do you know something about a Huang? Lin Feng could not help but look at Lu Ruoxin. He had a feeling that this woman knew something about a Huang. However, she did not tell Lin Feng anything about a Huang. She did not say anything. Lin Feng took the initiative to ask. After all, Lin Feng had nothing to be embarrassed about. What do you want to know? Lu Ruoxin asked calmly. Are a Huang and Chiyu lovers? Lin Feng asked. Lu Ruoxin rolled her eyes and said, Who said that a Huang and Chiyu are lovers? They do not belong to the same era. Oh, it seems like you know something about Chiyu and a Huang. Can you tell me more about them? Lin Feng said. Lin Feng had always been the kind of person who would ask questions whenever he did not know anything. He would never be embarrassed to ask about these things because of his reputation. Lu Ruoxin said, You should have heard a lot about Chiyu. Lin Feng said, But legends might not be true. Is Chiyu really as evil as the legends say? Lu Ruoxin raised her eyes and said, Rumor has it that Chiyu can control demons and beasts. Chiyu himself has 8 legs, 3 heads, and 6 arms. He has a copper head and an iron forehead. He is invulnerable. However, this rumor is not true. The real Chiyu in history is actually a human. Oh, Chiyu is a human? Lin Feng was shocked. This was the first time he had heard of such a thing. The infamous evil demon Chiyu, the Yellow Emperor, and Yen Emperor defeated him. Chiyu was actually a human. Lu Ruoxin continued, That's right. You didn't hear it wrong. Chiyu is indeed a human. It goes back to the tribal era. There's a clear gap between the human forces and other forces. At that time, the 3 emperors had already fallen, and the forces that the human race had painstakingly united once again fell apart. It was difficult to survive in troubled times, so the new Saint Emperor, the Yellow Emperor, wanted to unify the human race. Chiyu refused to be controlled by the Yellow Emperor. Therefore, he started a war with the Yellow Emperor. At that time, Chiyu was the god of war. He was extremely powerful. He also wanted to lead the human race to glory. Therefore, when the Yellow Emperor and the Yen Emperor fought against Chiyu, there was no difference between good and bad. Their goal was the same: to defeat the other party, make the other party submit, become the new leader of the human race, and lead the human race to survive in this chaotic world. The more Lin Feng listened, the more shocked he became. Chiyu, who had been recited for tens of thousands of years. Chiyu, who was cursed by countless people. To think that he had been wronged all this time. To be honest, Chiyu, in fact, he was also the ancestor of the human race. Lu Ruoxin said sarcastically. The funny thing is, after countless years, everyone thought that Chiyu was an evil demon. They couldn't even remember who their ancestors were. It's not without reason that the human race was declining. Lin Feng retorted. The human race has indeed made many mistakes in its history, but this race is diligent, kind, warm-hearted, optimistic, tenacious, and unyielding. This race has many good points. Lu Ruoxin did not continue. Indeed, although the human race had declined, this race did have many good points that other races could learn from. Therefore, disaster after disaster. However, the human race had continued to survive. On the other hand, many of the more powerful races had disappeared one after another in the Great Wars. What about a Huang? Who is she? Is she the female Saint Emperor of the human race? Lin Feng continued to ask. A Huang is indeed an amazing woman. She is the lover of Emperor Shun, one of the 5 emperors of the human race. Lu Ruoxin said. The 5 emperors referred to: the Central Emperor Yellow Emperor, the Eastern Emperor Qing Emperor, the Southern Emperor Red Emperor, the Western Emperor White Emperor, and the Northern Emperor Black Emperor. Emperor Shun was the Northern Emperor Black Emperor. After Emperor Shun fell, the era of the 5 emperors came to an end. The human race was once again faced with disintegration. A Huang replaced Emperor Shun in power and delayed the disintegration of the human race. Unfortunately, a Huang was destined to fail in uniting the human race. Lu Ruoxin said. As a woman, she seemed to hold a Huang in high esteem. Lin Feng said, So, she is Emperor Shun's woman. Could this be the place where a Huang used to live? Perhaps. The 9 profound fallen immortal realm did not belong to the 9 profound great world. It fell from the outer space. Therefore, some of the things in this place do not belong to the 9 profound great world. Lu Ruoxin said. Lin Feng had heard this from others before. Since so many people had said this, even Lu Ruoxin had said so, it seemed that the 9 profound fallen immortal realm had indeed fallen from the outer space. The 2 of them searched carefully in the second cave, hoping to find some valuable treasures. However, they searched many times. In vain. They found nothing. Let's go in and have a look, Lin Feng said, and walked deeper into the cave. Lu Ruoxin and Lin Feng also walked deeper into the cave. The demon lord appeared and stood alone in front of a Huang's stone statue, gazing at her. He stretched out his hand. He wanted to touch a Huang gently, but in the end, the demon lord withdrew his hand. In the end, the demon lord sighed. His body gradually dissipated. After arriving at the 3rd cave, Lin Feng saw a stone platform. On the stone platform, there were 2 things on it. One of them was an alchemy book iron certificate. The other item was a square seal. Since a Huang had placed these 2 things here, they must have an extraordinary origin. It's a Huang's imperial jade seal and Emperor Shun's alchemy book. Lu Ruoxin said in surprise. Oh, what kind of extraordinary origin do these 2 treasures have? Lin Feng could not help but ask in surprise. Looking at Lu Ruoxin's surprised expression, he knew that these 2 treasures were extraordinary. A Huang's imperial jade seal was made by a Huang when she was in charge of the human race. Rumor has it that it represents the orthodoxy of the human race. It is said that Emperor Shun's alchemy book has 108 words. Emperor Shun personally searched for 9 heaven Xianyang immortal iron to make the alchemy book iron certificate. He then wrote the 108 words himself. Emperor Shun's alchemy book was infused with Emperor Shun's willpower. Lu Ruoxin said. Good stuff. It's really good stuff. Lin Feng was also very surprised. I want a Wang's Imperial Jade Seal. Lu Ruoxin said. I want Emperor Shun's alchemy book. Lin Feng smiled. As a man, he should naturally inherit the treasures left behind by Emperor Shun. The treasures left behind by a Huang were extraordinary, but a Huang was a woman. The treasures left behind might not be suitable for Lin Feng. These two treasures belong to me. Chapter 34:18. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. When that voice faded away, one by one, figures flew over. Finally, they landed, a total of 9 people. The person in the lead was the heavenly human tribe cultivator, Tian Wuya. Tian Wuya had a noble status, equivalent to the prince of the Eastern Universe world, high and mighty, looking down on the world from the sidelines. Even sage emperors and emperor lords would have to give boundless heaven some face when they saw him. Who asked Tian Wuya's background to be so awesome? Those sage emperors and emperor lords could ignore Tian Wuya. However, they couldn't ignore the heavenly human tribe behind Tian Wuya. After the beginning of the new era, how many terrifying and powerful races had appeared in the past. Perhaps there were already countless of them, but with the passage of time, those major forces were eliminated by the river of time. No matter how powerful he was in the past. But now it was all in the past. But the heavenly human clan was different. From the human clan in the tribal era to the Lich era, they had to endure hardships. After the great Witch Demon War, controlling the heaven realm. From then on, thus, it never declined again. No one knew just how powerful the heavenly human tribe was now, even though he had experienced several great tribulations. The fact that the heavenly human tribe hadn't been annihilated was enough to show how terrifying the foundation of this tribe was. However, Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin simply ignored boundless heaven. So, what if you're a heavenly human tribe cultivator? I won't give a damn about you. Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin quickly arrived in front of the 2 supreme treasures. Lin Feng grabbed Emperor Shun's alchemy book. Meanwhile, Lu Ruoxin held the Huang Imperial Jade Seal in her hand. When Lin Feng held the alchemy scripture in his hand, it suddenly released a mysterious force that poured into Lin Feng's body. That power, it seemed to be the inheritance of a bloodline power. Bloodline inheritance. Endless vitality. That kind of power made Lin Feng involuntarily have an impulse to roar towards the sky. That power greatly increased Lin Feng's battle prowess. At that moment, Lin Feng felt as if he was about to break through the shackles of his realm. He could no longer suppress the light of calamity in his glabella. Lin Feng was shocked. He had received the support of Emperor Shun's Book of Alchemy. The Emperor Tribulation seemed to be about to descend. However, Lin Feng didn't want to transcend the tribulation right now. He had just obtained 100 types of 3,000 great Daos, and had not had the time to cultivate them yet. Cultivating 2,300 types of 3,000 great Daos to transcend the Great Emperor Tribulation was obviously different from cultivating 2,400 types of 3,000 great Daos to transcend the Great Emperor Tribulation. Furthermore, even though Lin Feng had already practiced 2,400 types of the 3,000 Great Tao, he didn't intend to use Culpa strength for the time being. He had already practiced 2,400 types of the 3,000 Great Tao. There were only 600 of the 3,000 Great Daos left to reach the 3,000. Why not learn from the Red World Fairy? Cultivating 3,000 types of Great Daos before transcending the Great Emperor Tribulation? Lin Feng hurriedly circulated the archaic dragonesque elephant art to suppress the light of calamity between his eyebrows. However, Lin Feng discovered that even the Archean dragonesque elephant art could not suppress the light of calamity between his eyebrows. Hence, Lin Feng performed the 8 divine seals and the great suppression art. It was difficult to suppress the light of calamity between his eyebrows. It was really not easy. Lin Feng couldn't help but let out a long sigh. How dare you ignore me? Tian Weia looked at Lin Feng and Lu Ruoxin in disbelief. His expression was extremely ugly, because this was the first time something like this had happened. Tian Weia had even seen more than one Saint Emperor and even Emperor Lord level experts. After those experts found out about his identity, Yi Zichen's expression changed. They were all very polite, but now 2 young cultivators actually dared to ignore him. What angered Tian Weia the most was that one of the 2 had not even broken through to the great emperor realm. Such a cultivator was like an ant. They actually dared to ignore him. Wasn't this a slap to his face? Tian Weia was really mad with anger. Tian Weia, I know you. We should have met once back then. Lu Ruoxin suddenly said. You are. Tian Weia narrowed his eyes and looked at Lu Ruoxin. So it's you. He recognized Lu Ruoxin's identity. Lin Feng was shocked. It was rumored that Lu Ruoxin was someone who had walked out of the undying world. Now, it seemed that it was really possible. Tian Weia actually knew her. That's right. Now, I want this thing. You won't make an enemy out of me just because of this thing, right? Lu Ruoxin said very seriously. Tian Weya's expression was gloomy. He didn't want to let Lu Ruoxin go, but when he thought about the power behind her, Tian Weya said fiercely, Stop wasting time. Hurry up and leave. Lu Ruoxin glanced at Lin Feng and said, I'm also a clay Buddha crossing the river. I almost couldn't even save myself. You're on your own now. You have no sense of brotherhood. Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes. Lu Ruoxin curled her lips and quickly left. She didn't have a deep relationship with Lin Feng. The 2 of them had only worked together for a short period of time. Since Lu Ruoxin had a way to leave, she naturally wouldn't stay and fight Tian Weia and the others. There were many experts on Tian Weya's side. Most importantly, Tian Weia himself was an extremely terrifying existence. Lu Ruoxin naturally wouldn't continue to make an enemy out of Tian Weia just because of Lin Feng. After Lu Ruoxin left, Lin Feng was left alone in the cave to face Tian Weia and the others. A lowly human dares to snatch what this young master wants. You really don't know how to write the word death. Tian Weia looked at Lin Feng with contempt. It was a kind of contempt that radiated from his bones. Said Lin Feng, smiling icily, Despicable humans, are you scolding yourself? Are you cursing your ancestors? Hearing that, Tian Weya's expression turned cold. He said coldly, Kid, what are you talking about? Lin Feng still had a calm expression. He said indifferently, What? Am I wrong? What's so great about the heavenly human tribe? The heavenly human tribe used to be a branch of the human race. Since you're using the word lowly to insult human cultivators, aren't you cursing yourself? You're also cursing your own ancestors. When those ancestors of the heavenly human tribe hear what you've said, they'll probably crawl out of their coffins one by one to see which unfilial descendant is cursing them. Lin Feng's ability to argue was second in the world. No one would dare to say they were first in the world. With just a few sentences, Tian Weya was rendered speechless. Young master, there's no need to get angry over an ant. Your subordinate will take care of this kid for you. A great emperor cultivator said. Tian Weya said coldly, Pull out his tendons and skin him. Put him to death by 1,000 cuts. Yes, young master. After receiving the order, The great Emperor Cultivator walked towards Lin Feng with a sinister smile. The great Emperor Cultivator was a monarch. He didn't think much of Lin Feng at all. Chapter 34:19. Brat, I hope you won't be crippled by my punch. The Imperial Emperor Realm Cultivator laughed sinisterly when he arrived beside Lin Feng. He threw a punch at Lin Feng. That powerful punch contained the power to destroy the heavens and earth. It directly enveloped Lin Feng and then brazenly attacked. The rest of the people watched all this with indifferent expressions. You're courting death. Lin Feng's expression was cold. Facing the attack of this Imperial Emperor Realm Cultivator, he threw a punch at this Emperor Realm Cultivator. This Imperial Emperor Realm Cultivator was only at the first heaven of the Imperial Emperor Realm. He was not taken seriously by Lin Feng at all. One had to know that although Lin Feng's cultivation had not broken through to the Emperor Realm, however, his savings were simply too powerful. With Lin Feng's savings, even if he was facing a third or fourth heaven of the Imperial Emperor Realm Cultivator, he would be invincible. Lin Feng had such confidence. Bang! Along with a violent collision sound, everyone saw Lin Feng colliding with the first heaven of the Imperial Emperor Realm Cultivator. The sound of bones cracking could be heard one after another. An unbelievable scene unfolded before everyone's eyes. Facing the opponent's attack, Lin Feng was safe and sound. As for the first heaven of the Imperial Emperor Realm Cultivator, his arm was directly broken. Lin Feng's attack did not weaken at all. After forcing the first heaven of the Imperial Emperor Realm Cultivator back, Lin Feng quickly stepped forward. An incomparably powerful punch. He continued to attack the Imperial Emperor-level expert. Bang! Following that, Lin Feng's powerful punch landed on the chest of the first heaven of the Imperial Emperor Realm Cultivator. On the other hand, the chest of the first heaven Imperial Emperor Cultivator exploded. His flesh was mangled. He fell to the ground. He was already dead. The first heaven of the Imperial Emperor Realm Cultivator died tragically on the spot. After seeing this scene, everyone's face was filled with disbelief. An Emperor Realm Cultivator was killed by a Quasi-Emperor Realm Cultivator with a single punch. It was simply too inconceivable. Even Tian Wuya was far from being able to do this back then. Tian Wuya was also a genius. Back then, when he was at the peak of the Quasi-Emperor realm, he could fight against cultivators at the fourth or fifth heaven of the God Emperor realm. He hadn't even entered the Emperor realm, yet he was able to fight against Emperor realm cultivators. It could be said to be heaven-defying in any place. However, Tian Wuya's level back then was far from Lin Feng's current level. Therefore, when they saw Lin Feng displaying such heaven-defying battle prowess, Tian Wuya thought to himself. Suddenly, a deep sense of jealousy welled up in his heart. As for Lin Feng, he took out 3 stone swords before Tian Wuya, and the others could react. The soldier incantation began to operate. Under the control of the weapon mantra, the power of the 3 stone swords was raised to the extreme. Then, the 3 stone swords all slashed towards Tian Wuya. The 3 stone swords shook the void. The void was almost shattered into pieces. The power was simply too tyrannical. Stone swords. You actually have stone swords, and 3 stone swords at that. Tian Wuya couldn't help but exclaim. Since this Tian Wuya was a heavenly human cultivator from the Undying Realm, then he definitely knew that Di Wudao had 9 stone swords. Perhaps Tian Wuya had seen Di Wudao's 9 stone swords before. This was also very likely. Therefore, now that Tian Wuya recognized Lin Feng's 3 stone swords, Lin Feng didn't find it strange. The 3 stone swords slashed through the void, shattering heaven and earth. The power was so strong that it moved people. This Tian Wuya's cultivation was incomparably terrifying. He opened his hand, and endless magic power surged out. An illusory world formed, and that illusory world suppressed the 3 stone swords. Tian Wuya wanted to suppress Lin Feng's 3 stone swords. Emperor Sect. Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. Originally, Lin Feng had always thought that Tian Wuya's cultivation was at the Emperor realm. Moreover, he was at the early stage of the Emperor realm. But who would have thought that Tian Wuya had actually concealed his cultivation? This person, he was an Emperor Sect expert. He had only cultivated for 100 years. He had actually cultivated to the Emperor Sect realm, as expected of a cultivator from the huge heavenly human tribe. The young elites nurtured by the heavenly human tribe were indeed very heaven-defying. This was something that one couldn't help but admire. Of course. So what if he was at the Emperor Sect realm? It was simply impossible to suppress the stone swords. Under Lin Feng's control, the stone swords displayed heaven-defying power. The stone swords destroyed Tian Wuya's attack and quickly slashed towards him. Tian Wuya's face darkened slightly. He hurriedly tore through the void and left quickly, dodging the stone sword's attack. Lin Feng didn't continue to attack Tian Wuya. Tian Wuya had the advantage in numbers, and Tian Wuya himself was actually an Emperor Sect realm cultivator. His cultivation base was simply too much higher than Lin Feng's. To think that he could rely on his own strength to fight against Tian Wuya and the other experts. It was simply an impossible thing to be completely right. Swoosh! After Lin Feng collected the 3 stone swords, he quickly flew outside. Tian Wuya appeared from the void 20 meters away, his face extremely dark. Chase after him. He took the lead and chased after Lin Feng. The rest of the people followed closely behind. After Lin Feng rushed out of the cave, he directly threw dozens of jade talismans into the cave. Rumble! 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 A loud sound shook the heavens and the earth. The jade talismans exploded. The mountain collapsed. Tian Wuya and the others were instantly buried in it. Lin Feng quickly left the area. After Lin Feng was a distance away, Tian Wuya and the others rushed out. They broke out of the ruins. Right now, they looked extremely wretched. If not for their powerful cultivation bases, they would have been crushed by the mountains in the 9 profound fallen immortal realm. They would have most likely died, because the mountains in the 9 profound fallen immortal realm were also filled with restrictions. When the mountains collapsed, it would affect the whole situation. It was definitely not something as simple as a mountain collapsing. There were many other things involved. There might even be many unexpected dangers. Because of this, once a cultivator was crushed by the mountains in the 9 profound fallen immortal realm, there was a high chance that they would die. Lin Feng stood in the distance and saw Tian Wuya and the others rushing out of the ruins. Tian Wuya's face was extremely pale, his hatred overflowing. Search! You must find that brat. This young master will grind that brat's bones to dust. Tian Wuya said viciously, Yes, young master. After the others received the order, they split up to search for Lin Feng's whereabouts. Lin Feng didn't appear. He found a hidden place to rest. Chapter 34:20. Emperor Shun's Book of Alchemy was filled with runes. Those runes, they should have been written by Emperor Shun. Apart from those runes, the most mysterious thing was naturally the 108 ancient characters. What are these characters? What do these 108 characters mean? Lin Feng couldn't help but wonder. He didn't recognize the 108 ancient characters on Emperor Shun's Book of Alchemy. Demon Lord, look at the ancient characters on Emperor Shun's Book of Alchemy. Do you recognize them? Lin Feng couldn't help but ask. Whoosh! A light flashed. The demon lord flew out from the demon orb. At this time, an extremely shocking scene occurred. When the demon lord flew out, for some reason, Emperor Shun's book of alchemy emitted rays of divine light. Then, Emperor Shun's book of alchemy flew to the demon lord's side and circled around the demon lord, as if a long-lost relative had met. What's going on? Emperor Shun's book of alchemy is very close to the demon lord. Lin Feng couldn't help but be puzzled. This should be the first time Emperor Shun's book of alchemy met the demon lord. Why would Emperor Shun's book of alchemy fly to the demon lord's side? Lin Feng couldn't help but ponder. The demon lord held Emperor Shun's book of alchemy in his hand as if he was holding a sacred item. He gently stroked Emperor Shun's book of alchemy. His eyes were looking at the ancient characters. For a long time, he didn't speak. Could it be that the demon lord has seen Emperor Shun's book of alchemy before? That can't be right. Emperor Shun's book of alchemy has always been in a Huang's cave. Logically speaking, the demon lord definitely hasn't seen Emperor Shun's book of alchemy before. But why is there something wrong with Emperor Shun's book of alchemy and the demon lord? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter. His heart was filled with countless doubts. But Lin Feng knew the demon lord's character. If he wanted to tell Lin Feng didn't ask. The demon lord would naturally speak. If he didn't want to tell Lin Feng, even though he did ask, the demon lord wouldn't say anything either. Since he knew this, Lin Feng did not intend to tell the demon lord about his doubts. Demon lord, do you recognize these ancient characters? Lin Feng asked again. The demon lord's thoughts seemed to have been pulled back to reality by Lin Feng. He looked at Lin Feng and said, "These ancient characters record a sacrificial speech. Words of sacrifice. Could it be some kind of sacrificial technique?" Lin Feng couldn't help but ask curiously. It can't be considered a divine ability, but through sacrifice, it can communicate with some great beings in the unseen world. The demon lord said, "What are those great existences?" Lin Feng asked curiously. The demon lord said, "Perhaps when you can truly control the Shun Emperor's alchemy book in the future, you will know." The demon lord didn't continue. The Shun Emperor's alchemy book hid a great secret, but that required Lin Feng to comprehend. The Shun Emperor's alchemy book was indeed too extraordinary. Wanting to comprehend its secrets was not an easy task. Lin Feng was also very clear about this point. At night, a destructive aura filled the world. After feeling the destructive aura, Lin Feng's face couldn't help but reveal a shocked expression. What kind of creature could emit such a terrifying aura? Of course, it could also be some unknown thing that emitted such a terrifying aura. But as for what it was, Lin Feng didn't know. When that aura was emitted between heaven and earth, everything became so quiet. It was so quiet that it made people feel a little manic. Lin Feng still stayed in the place of seclusion and didn't come out. He just looked through a gap and looked into the depths of the Jiuquan fallen immortal domain. This place was too dangerous. There were many unknown and terrifying things or creatures. Rumble, rumble, rumble. In the latter half of the night, the earth shook violently. The mountains were also constantly shaking. It was like a big earthquake had occurred. There were no sounds of insects, birds, or beasts. All the sounds between heaven and earth seemed to have disappeared. Lin Feng felt that he was about to suffocate. That kind of feeling was really terrible. What the hell is going to happen? Lin Feng couldn't help but murmur to himself. He didn't know what was going to happen. But Lin Feng knew one thing. That was, what was about to happen would be incomparably terrifying. The mountains shook and the earth trembled. This situation continued until dawn arrived. When the sky was completely bright, everything returned to normal. Lin Feng walked out of the place of seclusion and looked into the depths. Lin Feng's face was immediately filled with a stunned expression. He couldn't even believe what his eyes were seeing. In the depths, a stone tower that was at least 100 meters tall appeared. 100 meters tall wasn't particularly tall, but the stone tower gave people the feeling that it was as majestic as a mountain. Heavy, oppressive, suffocating. That stone tower, it was emitting an aura that made people feel like they were going crazy. It's that stone tower. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. The stone tower that had appeared in the mural. It was so similar to the stone tower in the Jiuquan Fallen Immortal Domain. The stone tower that had mysteriously disappeared after being shrouded in black fog had actually appeared here. It was really unbelievable. The stone tower in the mural used to be an extremely evil tomb. Back then, the creatures who built the stone tower sacrificed so many people without hesitation. Who was buried in the stone tower? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. The stone tower was very mysterious. No one knew who was buried in it. Perhaps only the creatures that had built the stone tower in the past knew. The outside of the stone tower was surrounded by dense runes. Many runes. They emitted a power that made one's soul tremble. Incredible! The runes on the stone tower are incredible. If I can comprehend them, it will greatly increase my battle prowess. Lin Feng couldn't help but be moved. The stone tower was shrouded in a layer of gray mist, that kind of gray fog. It emitted a power that made people shudder. Before entering the stone tower, Lin Feng felt a deep sense of fear just by sensing the stone tower's aura. It was a feeling of fear. It was a fear that came from the depths of one's soul. Countless years have passed. What happened to the stone tower's master? Has his body already decayed? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. Time was merciless and could destroy everything. In Lin Feng's opinion, the stone tower's master was no exception. It was only a matter of time before he was destroyed. In the Jiuquan Fallen Immortal Domain, there were cultivators rushing toward the stone tower from all directions. The stone tower was too extraordinary, even though these cultivators hadn't seen the mural's contents. They only needed to sense the stone tower's aura to know how extraordinary it was. Lin Feng also moved towards the stone tower at full speed.